We'll call to order tonight's meeting of the Kokomo Common Council. And as always, we'll start with prayer. We'll ask Pastor Ruth Lawson if she'll come and lead us in that. Feel free to stand and join us, or you can stay in your seat, whichever you choose. And then the pledge will be led by Councilman Bob Stevenson.
Congratulations. Shall we pray? Dear Father, we thank you for caring about us. We are a diverse community of people who all care about our city and county. We are united in pursuing the good of our community. Thank you, dear God, for blessing Kokomo, and we pray your continued blessings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Thanks, Ruth. Sorry. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you.
Hi, Ruth. Okay, I'd ask the clerk to call roll, please.
Councilman Capshaw.
Here.
Councilman Stevenson.
Here.
Councilman Plow.
Here.
Councilman Stewart.
Present.
Councilman Collins.
Here.
Councilman Davis.
Here.
Councilman Griecu.
Here.
Councilwoman Sandburn. Present. And Councilman Micklick.
Here. Tonight we have two sets of minutes to approve. We'll approve together. They're both from February the 23rd. One is from the public hearing, and the other set of minutes is from the regular hearing. So I'd entertain a motion to accept those.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second. We have a first and a second to approve both sets of minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Are there any committee reports?
Mr. President, I'd like to report from the March 4th meeting of the Kokomo Redevelopment Corporation, or Commission, I'm sorry. We approved the 2025 annual report and forwarded that on to the council for everybody's approval. And we also approved an application for the Brick Street LLC for a riverfront liquor license.
Okay, thank you. Is there any communications by anyone from council? Let me give you some idea of how tonight looks. Let me read this, please. If you will, though, start by muting or turning off your phones so we're not interrupted. The order of tonight's business will start with the second reading of ordinance number 7232, which is a rezoning of property located at 935 South Goyer. Next, we will have the second reading of ordinance number 7233, which is a rezoning of property located at 718 South Dixon and 2200 West Markland. These ordinances were heard on February the 23rd. This is the second reading for them. This does not involve you unless you want to speak to it and want to be involved. But this is not the annexation and rezoning that we'll be discussing from up north. Upon the conclusion of that business, we will begin our discussion involving the annexation of approximately 746 acres under ordinance number 7229 and rezoning of approximately 654 acres under ordinance 7234. I would remind everyone that tonight is only the first reading of each of these ordinances. If these ordinances pass tonight, they will both face a second reading at our next meeting, which will be March the 23rd, 2026, at 6 p.m. in these same chambers. I'll mention that the meeting was originally scheduled for March the 30th, but due to spring break and for the benefit of everyone involved in this process, we've decided to move the next council meeting up 1 week to March the 23rd. As we did on February the 23rd, we will put in place content-neutral rules such as time limits, speaker sign-ups, and staying on topic. Before we begin the reading of Annexation Ordinance 7229, we will hear from Mr. Paul Wyman, who represents the petitioners in this matter. Following Mr. Wyman, Lori Dukes, who is the president of the Greater Kokomo Economic Development Alliance, will speak. Each of these speakers will be provided the amount of time they deem necessary to present their material for the benefit of this council and those in attendance. They are being afforded more time since there was only 2 of them, while we will institute the same guidelines as we did on February the 23rd, where speakers from the audience will be limited to 4 minutes each, because there will be many more of you, and I believe there are 29. When Mr. Wyman and Ms. Dukes are finished, we will begin our business with ordinance number 7229. Having had our public hearing on February the 23rd, we will not ask those who spoke on the 23rd to speak again. We have that list, and we want to ensure that those same people don't speak again tonight. However,
With new content?
please, you don't misunderstand. We had that meeting on the 23rd. If you wanted to,
Yeah, possible.
we can't all speak at the same time. Please, just bear with me, okay, and we'll get through this. We'll ask the people who spoke on the 23rd not to speak again. However, in the event there was any confusion at our public hearing, we would be happy to hear from those who might have wanted to speak about annexation but didn't. So we're giving those people a chance to speak. You just have to let me get it out, okay? This will be annexation only. The rezoning ordinance, number 7234, will be heard after the annexation ordinance and will include the ability for each of you who have signed up to speak.
That's the one that has 29.
I'm sorry?
The zoning has 29.
And the rezoning has 29 people, so you'll all have a chance to speak, okay? Please consider those things that you feel are most important for us to hear. Please remember that we are not here to talk about or speculate about a data center. This council's limit of responsibility has not changed. From now through March the 23rd, our only responsibility are those of annexation and rezoning. I would ask the clerk to read ordinance number 7229 by title only, please.
You want to do the first ones first? We'll do that one later.
Give me 732.
Actually, that's just-
Let's start with
72. Got it.
Mr. Wyman, and then we'll read the ordinance.
72.
Oh, yeah, we do. I'm sorry.
72.
7232.
Yep.
We know what we're.
Councilman Griecu,
Thank you.
we'll start, Diane, if you'll read ordinance 7232 by title only, please.
Ordinance 7232 is case P02Z26, is a rezone for commercial use.
Councilman Griecu.
Mr. President, ordinance 7232 is a petition of Faith Temple Incorporated for a change in zone classification from IS institutional use to C2 medium to large scale general commercial for property located at 935 South Goyer Road. This is the former location of Fuel Church at the corner of South Goyer and Markland Avenue. And I move for passage of ordinance 7232 on second reading.
Support. Okay, any comments by anyone on the council? Any comments from anyone in the audience? Okay, we have a motion and a second to pass ordinance 7232 on second reading. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Ask the clerk to read ordinance 7233 by title only, please.
Ordinance 7233 is case P03Z26, is a rezone for Howard County Sheriff's Office and Jail.
Councilman Griecu.
Mr. President, ordinance 7233 is a petition of the Howard County Economic Redevelopment Commission, represented by Commissioner Jack Dodd, requesting a change in zone classification from R1 very low density residential to IS institutional use for property located at 750 South Dixon Road and 2200 West Markland Avenue. This is property adjacent to the current jail for the purpose of building the new jail. I move for passage of ordinance 7233 on second reading.
Second.
Okay, do we have any communication from anyone on the council? Any communication from anyone in the audience? Okay, we have a motion and a second to pass ordinance number 7233 All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. As we proceed on then with ordinance 7229, I'll ask that Mr. Paul Wyman come forward and talk to us on behalf of petitioners.
Good evening, members of the council. Paul Wyman, 1533 West Lincoln Road, Kokomo, Indiana. This is the first opportunity I've had to address the council in a public forum regarding the annexation as well as the zoning. And so my remarks tonight will be for both of the ordinances that you'll be hearing on first reading this evening. Tonight I'm representing the petitioners for both annexation and zoning. And as you can see before you on the screens, in the purple area is the 700 plus acres that the petitioners are requesting for rezoning and annexation. And so I think it's really important for us to talk about how we arrived here at this location from an annexation perspective and from a zoning perspective. I know it's hard to believe, but we're talking almost 30 years ago now that the Chrysler transmission plant, which is the large white building just left of the lower purple area in the drawing that I gave you and what's on the screen, it's hard to believe that it's been almost 30 years ago, but we had an opportunity in our community for Chrysler to expand. And at that time, community leaders, long before many of us in this room, determined that future growth for the city of Kokomo with this type of industry should be on the northeast side of Kokomo. And so the city undertook a zoning and an annexation to bring that farm ground into the city and put an incentive in place for Chrysler to build a transmission plant. That was really the first step forward to saying this is the area that we want to grow industry in our community. Because if you look at our current transmission plants and GM and Delphi, there is no room for growth. They're all surrounded by housing, they're surrounded by retail and golf courses. It's all filled in around them now. And so this became the designated area by community leaders at the time. And with that moment, believe it or not, a 0.25% economic development income tax was put in place at that time. And the purpose of that income tax that has been paid by every one of you and every one of us in this room was to pay to bring the utilities out to this location to support this transmission plant. So literally, as citizens of Kokomo and Howard County, we have paid millions upon millions of dollars through a tax to bring utilities to this location for Chrysler to expand the transmission plant. And they did. And they built that facility on, I think it's over 140, 150 acres and invested billions of dollars and created jobs. And so with that investment from the citizens, that investment from Chrysler, you hope that that would generate future expansion. And it did. And so literally in 2002, Chrysler expanded to the white building south of the big one. And that was also a transmission plant at the time, but we were very fortunate a handful of years later that Chrysler then came in and invested another $400 million in our community and converted that transmission plant to an engine plant. So a pretty significant investment by Chrysler in our community, and because of the foresight of county leaders and city leaders at the time, we were able to capture that investment, capture those jobs, and they didn't go to some other community or some other state. Well, shortly after that, then the discussion became about the bypass around the city of Kokomo. And if you look at that map, you can see the bypass was put in the year 2013. There are two interchanges on the bypass. There's the one down on the far south right of that drawing, which is the Toby Pike interchange. And then there's the one up by the transmission plant, which was the Chrysler transmission plant interchange. During that time, the state actually pulled out the Toby Pike interchange, and they were just going to go with the one up by the transmission plant. And community leaders at that time said, hold on a second, this is our designated growth area for industry in our community. Taking out that Toby Pike interchange would be devastating to our growth plans, because any company of that size that's going to make those types of investments needs access to interstate quality highway. And so there was meetings with the states, lots of discussion and debate, and the state looked at the plan and agreed to put the Toby Pike interchange back in. So that's how we ended up with 2 interchanges in this industrial area, and now providing an opportunity for companies to have interstate quality highway, not be sending trucks down our current 931 with all the stoplights, but literally get them onto a highway, and then the trucks can get their product on the road. So with that investment, now with the bypass put in place, then came the conversation around the comprehensive plan. And if you look at the comprehensive plan, it designates and targets this area as industrial growth. Right behind that came the Duke Energy site readiness study. Duke Energy gave a grant. It was a significant amount of dollars. I don't remember the exact, but I want to say $50,000 or $60,000. It was a significant amount of money to study this area. And that site plan study came back and said, you're spot on. This is exactly how this should be being laid out, with the bypass, the industry, the zonings. You guys, as a community, are doing it right. After that, then came the first phase of a new industrial park. And so if you'll look on the very bottom, you'll see a white rectangle. That is now Star Plus Energy battery plant. And so in all of that, there was probably 400 plus acres or so that many of you on this body approved for annexation, zoning, for industrial, so that we could be in a position with industrial shovel-ready ground to win in a competition with Ohio and Michigan for that battery plant to come here. And so in those discussions with Samsung and Stellantis to bring the battery plant here, we were able to show all the assets, the interchanges, the zoning, the shovel ready, and we were able to say speed to market to Star Plus Energy. And Star Plus Energy and Stellantis agreed, and they came and they located in this designated area. With that, just north of that rectangle, Star Plus Energy has also committed to battery plant number 2, projections somewhere around year 2028. But more interesting than that, Star Plus Energy and Samsung have purchased an additional 200 acres north of that. So here is this world-renowned, international, one of the greatest companies in the world, investing in Kokomo, Indiana, buying more land for future opportunities for our community. One of the greatest hopes that we could have as a community is that Samsung would bring more non-automotive related products to our community for future growth. We've talked many times about diversification, and Samsung literally gives us one of our greatest opportunities to do that. In fact, last fall, Samsung and Stellantis began a pivot inside the battery plant as things changed in the EV world with the change of administrations, and now they're producing battery backup storage systems. Those are non-automotive related. So we have one of the greatest companies in the world in Kokomo, Indiana, building non-automotive things, and now we're employing approximately 700-800 with the projection to hit 1,400 by the year end, which was their original projection to begin with. So really cool things happening inside the plant, and the purchase of additional land shows the commitment. So in all of that, there's more. There was several $100 million worth of utility improvements brought to this location. So we literally had to bring, as a community, working with NIPSCO, a 24-inch gas line all the way from Walton, Indiana to Kokomo, Indiana, to support the growth of the battery plant and to continue to support all the industry in that area. That was about a $200 million project, of which part of it was done by incentive by the state of Indiana, and the other half of it was done literally by Samsung writing a check for $100 million to help bring that gas line. So the company's actually writing checks and paying for it. That was the gas. Duke Energy purchased 60 acres right here in this area and is building an entire new substation now. Samsung wrote a check for $50 million for that utility upgrade, which will now benefit the entire area. The company paid for the utility upgrade, not us as citizens, but there's extra capacity there now that can be utilized by others in the area. So we have extra capacity of gas, we have extra capacity of electricity in this area now, and with that came more utility. Indiana American Water Company came to this area, did an upgrade, about $7 million. Samsung is paying that back to the city of Kokomo as well. And then lastly, Berrycom, who years ago, probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, was awarded the project to build the fiber ring around the entire county of Howard County. And they completed that project phenomenally. Well, with all of this going on, Berrycom ensured that there was enough fiber in this area to not only support the battery plant existing growth, but future growth as well. So now literally we have hundreds of millions of dollars in gas, water, electric, and fiber, all designated, all right here, all with excess capacity. Pretty impressive for this location. So to sum up the packaged area here, we're talking about annexation and zoning to get it all done over the years, millions of dollars of investment in utility, massive industrial investments from Chrysler to the engine plant, to the battery plant, to Haywoo Logistics. If you look at the small rectangle up north of the transmission plant, that's the most recent investment in this area by Haywoo Logistics. They're an international logistics company, and they located in this area as well. Took in about almost 200,000 square foot building. We have the 2 interchanges. And so thankfully this has worked. And I think one of the most important things to point out as to why the community over these years has done this level of economic development is because we all have witnessed job loss in our community from GM and Delphi. And that's no criticism to them, but if you go back to 1989, we had 14,000 employees at GM. In the early 1990s, 10,000 employees at Delphi World Headquarters here in Kokomo, Indiana. And over that 10-year period till this investment from Chrysler, that's when those jobs were dwindling. The world was changing, the automotive world was changing, and we were losing jobs steadily. And all of a sudden, community leaders said, wait a second, we can get an expansion by annexing, taking farmland and creating industrial property. And so we ended up literally now replacing thousands of those jobs. Not all of them, but thank God we replaced thousands of them, because I don't think if anybody in this room sat here and thought about it for a second, had we not done this and those thousands of jobs were not here, we'd be pretty devastated as a community right now. So the plan was absolutely working. And so people say, well, why 700 acres? And you'll hear a little bit of that from Lori here in a few minutes. But the reality of the matter is 700 acres just gets us into the competition. You can go to Michigan, Ohio, you can find industrial parks in those states that range 1,200, 1,500 acres or more. And if you look around just the state of Indiana, there is over 15 industrial parks in other communities that have over 500 acres in them. So an industrial park of that size is done because, as you can see, when Samsung came in and took 400 plus acres and then bought another 200, that's one entity that's invested billions of dollars in our community, and they took up 600 acres in that scenario. So industrial park is a proven concept for Kokomo. It absolutely works. And when you look at a $4.5 billion investment as a result of it, I think that we can all really be proud of that. The challenges that we have in the community going forward, you all know them better than any of us, but most of us have been paying attention to the news. And we understand the ramifications of Senate Bill 1 and what that means to less revenue for local governments. But we all in this room have an expectation of services. We have an expectation that the roads are done, that we have police and fire, that we have a jail, and you guys just approved the zoning for a new jail tonight is a great example. $132 million is the cost of that jail. And like it or not, as a council, you all have to have a hand in that, because last year you had to have a hand in the tax, the vote for the tax on that. That's coming again in 2 years, and this community has got to figure out a way to pay $132 million for a jail. Investment is one of the best ways to take a chunk out of a $132 million price tag. So when we look at the entirety of it, from a SB1, the jail, those sorts of things, we as a community have to look for investment. We have to say what companies can bring jobs, what companies can bring dollars that can keep our tax rates lower and participate in these expenditures. So a couple things I'll share and then I'll wrap up here. We've been hearing a lot about blind annexation. And what I just want to share with you all tonight is if you truly looked at the definition of blind annexation is a city that is forcing annexation, or if you will, making a land grab, and not announcing what the zoning will be, and then having no intention outlined for the project, little or no public input. Those are what is defined as blind annexation. And the truth of the matter is, we are 100% opposite of that right now. So I'll explain how we're 100% opposite of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this, okay? If we can't conduct ourselves in a common manner, then we can have the chambers emptied. This is not necessary for us to have people here. It's not necessary for us to have you here to speak. But you know what? You have us here for a reason. I serve God first, okay? And then I have constituents here. You ask me questions. We're going to do this the right way, or we'll not do it at all, and we'll do the business that we need to do. I'm asking you, please, to control yourself. We don't need to act like that. No one here is doing that, and neither is he.
So I'll start out with this. The annexation is not a land grab by the city of Kokomo. The annexation is literally 100% voluntary by every one of these property owners. They have all signed a petition asking you all to annex them into the city. Okay, so there's nothing blind about that. It's a true petition signed by all property owners. It's also not blind because the zoning has been clearly announced. We are asking for a high-intensity industrial zoning, and so when the zoning is announced, that's very transparent. The second component of it comes because it's a very defined use. It's a defined use that this city council and the mayor for years have utilized in creating industrial parks to attract business. It worked. We received a $4.5 billion investment by this very process. Annexing, zoning land, industrial park, attracted business. When it's defined like that, it's not considered blind annexation. And literally, for 30 years now, with everything that I laid out for you that has grown into this area, has happened through public meetings. Every single one of those processes, the zonings, the annexations, the utilities, the economic development agreements, the site plans, you name it, every bit of that in this area has been done in public meetings, therefore showing that, again, it is not a blind annexation. And so here we stand before you today, and as I mentioned, the competition is real. I want you all to know, because I know folks in here have seen trucks out there doing work. This is literally due diligence work being done. In any economic development project that any developer does, especially a development of this magnitude, if the developer and or the city is going to be able to say to businesses such as Samsung, we have shovel-ready ground, come to Kokomo, Indiana, the type of due diligence work that is being done right now has to be done. So I'm going to share with you what is being done out there right now. Surveys, geotech work, soil samples, Phase 1 environmentals, Phase 2 environmentals, wetland studies. Every environmental component of that property is being studied during a due diligence period. Because any company that comes along and says, we want to make an investment in Kokomo here, one of the first things they're going to ask for is that paperwork, those studies, so that they can see that work's been done and that this ground truly is shovel-ready. That's what's being done now. So to be clear, going forward, should this council approve the annexation and the zoning, nobody can run there next week and just start sticking shovels in the ground and building. There will be months-long more public meetings. There will have to be subdivision approvals. There will have to be site plan approvals. There will have to be many, many public meetings, of which many of you may be participating in, not only by virtue of serving on other commissions or councils, but any type of an economic development agreement that may come out of that would come before this legislative body as well. So literally, we're talking about months. Tonight's about the concept of, should we have another addition to the industrial park that obviously was incredibly successful for us in the first go-around. And so I'm going to wrap up here with just a couple last thoughts. House Bill 1333, there was a lot of concern about that. It never made it through the House and the Senate, and that died. It would not have applied to this because the quality of the ground that we have here is different than what House Bill 1333, but I just want everybody to know that's off the table. It's not even an issue for consideration in this process. And so what I'm asking you to do is support tonight what has been done for 30 years in this location, and to truly understand the economic development package that we have created as a community for this location, for us to continue to grow and create jobs and have jobs for our kids, our grandkids going forward. Because our parents and our grandparents did that for us. They did it with KTP1, they did it with GM, they did it with Continental Steel, they did it with all those companies. And you see over time, those companies have either shrunk significantly or gone away. It's our responsibility to replace that so that we have jobs for our kids to stay here. And I will just tell you, you can think back to Continental Steel and GM and folks like that and sit there and be like, okay, some of those projects turned out a little bit difficult for us, but over the years they supported a lot of families. The development standard today is way different than the development standard 50, 60, and 70 years ago. The environmental standards, the ordinances that you all have put in place, that the Plan Commission's put in place, the standards are way, way higher. And the corporations that we have today, they're meeting those standards in our community. And that's an important component for us to consider as well. So we're asking that you pass the annexation on first reading. We're asking that you pass the industrial zoning on first reading tonight so that we can continue to move forward as a community and have offerings for jobs and investment. And with that, I'll introduce Lori Dukes, the CEO of the Greater Kokomo Economic Development Alliance.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, Council. Appreciate you letting me be here this evening. My name is Lori Dukes. I am the President and CEO of the Greater Kokomo Economic Development Alliance, and I am here speaking on behalf of our Board of Directors. So, as Paul stated, this project has been long in the works and supported by our organization. I just briefly want to speak and further emphasize that intent of that area. And as Paul mentioned, that farm ground was purchased with the understanding that it would be rezoned over time. So again, reiterating that segment that this is a project that has been long in the works. And
That's okay.
part of that plan is already in place, as you're aware, and a portion of that land has already been rezoned. So today, with that being Star Plus Energy and a second plant upcoming, what's before you now is just the next step, the next phase. So we strongly support the rezoning and annexation of the remaining land. I'm going to present to you, if I passed out before the meeting, if you'll entertain me for a moment. There are 3 examples of state leads. In our capacity, functioning as economic development for this community, we regularly engage with the state. Like every community in the state, we receive these opportunities. You'll see that they are referenced with code names. So if you look at the first sheet in front of you, let me pull mine out so we're speaking from the same page. You'll see here Project Eagle. This is an aerospace opportunity. So they will be given a code name so the companies can be kept private. And then we get this kind of summary sheet that helps explain the type of industry that is coming. So if looking for, could be possibly within the state of Indiana or within surrounding area states or across the country as a whole. So when you look at this information, you'll see that we get an opportunity here to see the type of industry that's being represented. In some cases, not all cases, we'll get a job count. We'll get an hourly rate for the average employee that will be working there. And then we have the opportunity to see if we have land that meets the needs. And so you can see that specified in the sheet below. There are several sheets that I've handed to you as an example. If you look at the back page, and I forget the code name right now, but once you get there, you'll see also the size requirement for that property. You'll note that this one is 650 acres. So what Paul was saying in terms of the size of the area on an average is very much true. So we can see anything from lower end, 10 to 50 acres, but it is very common. You'll see an example such as that in front of you. So I'll just give you a second to take a look at that. But from our perspective, having development-ready land it's critical. It's essential to being able to pursue the goals that were really associated with this project from the beginning. This request follows an established plan. It builds on success already happening in the area and positions our community for future growth. For those reasons, our board, the Greater Kokomo Economic Development Alliance, we respectfully ask for your support and favorable vote. Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask the clerk to read ordinance 7229 by title only, please.
Ordinance 7229 is an ordinance annexing certain territory to the city of Kokomo, Indiana, placing the same within the corporate boundaries thereof, and making the same a part of the city of Kokomo, Indiana.
Councilman Grieco.
Mr. President, I seek support for ordinance 7229.
Support.
Mr. President, ordinance 7229 is an ordinance annexing certain territory to the city of Kokomo, Indiana, placing the same within the corporate boundaries thereof. This is a 100% super voluntary annexation. All of the property owners have requested this. No property is being annexed that was not requested. We held a public hearing on February 23rd and adopted the fiscal plan. This is for the many properties that are located within this document in the supplied map. I'm not going to read all those locations. But I would move for passage of ordinance 7229 on first reading.
Do we have a second? Second. Okay, we have a first and a second. Is there any communication by anyone on the council?
Mr. President, I mean, we've all fought really hard and long about this, and we've got a lot of input from everybody out there, and I want to thank you for that. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to disagree with anything anybody says here tonight on either side. I just prefer to see these projects come forward individually for both annexation and rezoning. So they would come before this council one at a time. Once they're out of here, and you guys all know this, they'll never come back before us unless there's an abatement. They'll go before the city or the planning commission, which is an appointed board, and I have sat and watched them be told over and over, if something is zoned correctly, that wants to be put in there, that they are obligated to pass those. So it really takes the opportunity away from everybody here and all of us. So I would rather we not abdicate our responsibility and we take these one at a time as they bring these projects forward. I can't see why that's a big deal. I can't see why that would really slow things down and I think it would just be better for everybody. Yeah.
I don't understand.
So
Please, let him answer, 'cause
I'm answering his question. As the petitioner, I can answer questions of the council. So he asked the question about why we couldn't do these separately.
No, please.
Do you want me to
please,
answer- Bob, do you
please
want me
let
to-
him- Please
you-
let him answer, because I need to know, so please.
Thank you,
Go ahead.
Bob. Appreciate that. The reason is twofold. One, if you look at the sheets that Lori gave you, they specifically ask, do you have this land ready and available? And if her answer is no every time, we don't even get to respond to that request for proposal. Okay? So when she's literally getting these in her office, she has to pass on them, and she has to reply saying, we can't meet that need. And they're going to the 15 other communities in Indiana that have the 500-acre industrial parks, and they can meet that need immediately.
That's her job, not our problem.
Well, it becomes our problem as a community if we keep losing all of these opportunities in the aerospace industry and all the other projects that she shared with you.
So it says, hey, come back, we have
We
time.
we don't need to speak out from our seats, okay? In
So-
a minute, people that want to speak about annexation will get that opportunity, but this is not the way to do it.
So, Bob, very specifically, we literally cannot respond to those leads because we don't have the product that they're asking for. But the other 15 communities in Indiana are responding to them. So we lose that competitive edge. We had the industrial park and was able to say to Samsung, we have it. If we would not have been able to say to Samsung, we have that land ready to go, Samsung would not be here today. They would be in Michigan or Ohio, and we'd have lost out on that $4.5 billion investment. And then the last component of it is this. In this world, in today's day and age, I don't care what business that we're in, it's speed to market. The world is changing and moving at a rate that is just mind-boggling right now. And when we can't say to a company that we can match your speed, they're going to communities that say, we'll match your speed. And I remember specifically in the conversations with Samsung, that was the conversation. We'll match your speed. And so that's how we ended up with them, and that's why it's important to have the zone land in advance.
Thank you.
Any other communication from council? Okay, this will be an opportunity then for anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to annexation only that has not spoken already on the 23rd of February. If you've not spoken and want to, please approach the microphone. If you give us your name and your address, please.
My name's Emily McMillan. I live at 5413 East, 500 North. Since there's not a lot of time for us to speak today, I'd like to give everybody the opportunity to. If you're opposed to the annexation of the proposed land grab here, would you raise your hand, please? Please note that these are your voters. These are the people that voted you into this position. And we entrusted that to you to make the right decision for us and our safety. And the unknown to us is scary. So if you're just taking this on a whim because of money, then that's sad. And I hope you can sleep with that at night. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you give us your name and address, please?
My name is Sandy McNew. I live at 5794 North 100 East, Kokomo, Indiana. And I've lived there my whole life as far as that vicinity. I want to speak to you tonight about annexation, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity and getting my husband out of the doghouse. So my thoughts tonight are on the legal definition of coercion as it pertains to annexation. To coerce someone means to force or intimidate them into doing something against their will, using pressure, threats, manipulation, I just heard a big sigh, I'm sorry, or authority rather than genuine persuasion, often leading to actions that wouldn't normally be taken. It involves compelling someone to act through fear or obligation, using emotional pressure to get someone to agree. Tonight, I'm sharing examples of 3 types of coercion, and I'll make it quick. The 3 types of coercion often involve, and this has to do with annexation, because I grew up on a farm, and I know that they're offering $50,000 to $60,000, $70,000 an acre. These big corporations, these billionaires. And really, the ground's only worth about $11,000. Now, in my simple mind, that is coercion. But let me explain coercion. There's the physical coercion involving using or threatening physical harm, restraint, or force against a person, their relatives, or property to compel actions such as hitting, pushing, or holding someone at gunpoint. This is direct violence. This is not what we're dealing with. The second type is threats and intimidation using fear of future harm or negative consequences, even without immediate physical force, like threatening or fabricating evidence, like the fear of living in the shadow of a high-intensity industrial park. My neighbor was contacted by a realtor this week. She said she was showing homes, and the person she was showing a home to refused to come to our neighborhood because of what's going on. My value, I have worked on my home for over 40 years, and it's all for naught because the government can just come in and say, it's not yours anymore. We have bigger plans. And I'm getting off topic. The third is the one I'm most concerned about, psychological emotional manipulation. I know some very good and decent small farmers. They can't afford to buy farm ground now because our development issues, these prices are raising it to the point that they can no longer farm the ground. And if they do find ground, it's on the other side of the county, and they have to travel the highways, which is not good. Using deceit, isolation, emotional abuse, or exploiting vulnerabilities, such as like financial desperation to control someone, often through underhanded tactics or gaslighting to make them doubt reality. For this evening, I will use the following as an example of coercion for the proposed annexation. When someone is offered $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 an acre for ground that is only really worth $11,000. I'm just going to ask you, why should a few landowners, a handful of landowners in the county, change the course and landscape of the whole northeast side farming community of Howard County? That is my question. Thank you. Are we down to 4 minutes?
Tanya Young, 16 South Webster. It's really funny to me sitting here, first time I've been to a city council meeting. He asked a question, you said speed. It's really funny because when he spoke, he didn't talk about speed. He said, oh, it'll be months and months and months, months and months, and oh, you'll have 100 times to argue. But yet, when he asked, it was like, oh, speed, 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 we gotta have speed. No! Speed creates issues. Speed creates a community that gets all of us, all of our futures, our children in trouble. Did we not learn that? Did we not learn it when everybody said, oh, GM, 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 Delphi, Delphi, Delphi? Where are those jobs at? How many jobs is a data center or aerospace actually going to create? Because let me tell you, I've done the research. I know how to research. I've done it. It creates 10 to 15 jobs, which are typically out of state. And everybody goes, oh, well, what about buildings? Okay, fine, they're gonna build a couple buildings for a couple of years. What good is that gonna do us when we're ruining the ground, ruining the future, ruining our water? We have to have something to give to our children. And if that is not farmland in Indiana, then I don't know what the heck a Hoosier is anymore.
Hello, good evening. My name is Stacy Kendall. I live at 13479 South, 400 East, Kokomo. I want to come from the humanitarian side because you guys have been bombarded with facts, statistics. You guys know it. You probably know it better than I actually do, to be honest with you. I just want to say thank you for giving us all time to speak on a matter that is not only affecting our country, our county and city, but many others and our state at large in particular. Now listen, like I said, I'm not going to stand up here and go over every statistic and unfavorable mention of why an unspecified development plan is not right in this area right now. There have been so many that have spoken and can do this much more eloquently than I ever could. Ali Pond, for a prime example. I just want to point out that a lot of dealings have been done in the dark. My father was a preacher, and I remember growing up, he just wanted his 3 daughters to do what was right. Sometimes that made for a really tough time, but doing the right thing is not always the easy thing. I also remember him saying, when things are being done right, they are done in the daylight, no need to hide. But the wrong things are done in the dark until the light is shone upon them. Sorry, I'm nervous. I don't hold any ill will or personal feelings towards Mr. Wyman. I do believe this is one of the times a great salesman has been taken by an even greater salesman. I mean, how could we have known that Indiana in our county or city is being targeted for certain unwanted growth in the name of economic progress, right? I'm only asking that we do not support this annexation at this time, especially when we were just told how fantastic the battery plant was doing in Kokomo, and just to find out days later, I'm talking about the informational meeting is when that was told to me the first time, days later that Stellantis is splitting ways with Samsung. I don't want to degrade other communities, but we are quickly becoming another Gary, Indiana. If we continue to do this and take away farm ground and family homes just to have an industrial wasteland, we most definitely will be in the same shape as Gary. My husband and I love Howard and Miami County. We live in one and have property in the other. We have lived here our entire lives by choice. We have had ample opportunities to live in other states, but this is where our hearts are. We are invested in these counties. We are invested in our neighbors and friends. We are invested in the future of our grandchildren. We are invested in being good stewards of this land. We should be taking care of what we already have before diving into more. Industry, I will just say, is a hungry thing. I'm asking you the question, why do we need to be in a rush? I've not heard a single person say they don't want growth or economic growth. What I have heard is that we all want the right kind. So I believe we should slow down and either table this, I don't know if you can table that, for a much later date, or our best option is to vote no on this. Now, if there's a proposed project that's in the dark, then those should be brought to light along with the asking of this. This would definitely be a game changer, I think. I have asked the question of what companies are in the forefront of this, who's knocking at our door. I've yet to get any transparent answer. You don't just wake up one day and decide, let's rezone this. There's a plan, and we know it has been in the works without public knowledge. This is your opportunity to do the right thing by your constituents and to be forthright. Thank you again for this opportunity to speak, and I pray that the right thing is done, and I continue to pray for our county, state, and our leaders. Thank you. Bless you all.
Clea Oliver, 5768 West, 00 North South. I'd like to hand out a couple things if I can. I haven't got one for everybody, but I figured we'll shoot. one of the important ones, you the other important one. Well, not. Couple more. I'm not sure. There are two separate ones there. If you'll notice, I've got it highlighted on this one. It says parcel number, Board of Commissioners. It's the same parcel number, and one of them is dated 2/23/26. The other one's dated 3/9/26. If you'll notice, there's a whole lot of difference between the two. The first one dated 2/23/26, you'll see that it ends on a statement that says quarter section, hence south 88 degrees. I'm going to jump ahead, containing 0.16 acres more or less. If you look at the one that is present for today, it's got 1, 2, 3 additions to that, and I'd like to know why that is the case. How can you pass something initially during a public hearing and then add to it at this point in the process?
I can't see what you're talking about. We can't see what you're talking about. So
I'm sorry?
We can't see what you're talking, we can't find what you're saying.
Here, compared to this one.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's two of them.
I could differ here. That's where we have Corbin. That's right of way. It's right of way.
Might help if you pointed it out on the map, that little section you were talking about.
Well, I don't know. I don't understand the legal jumbo as far as
I know it's like,
Yeah, it's to the top. It would be hard to point out the acreage.
it actually says parcel 12 on both of them. And they're both the parcel numbers are exactly the same.
That's parcel 13. That's parcel 12.
This is 200, this is 400. But I don't know. What it is an addition to the approximately 0.044 acres. An acceptance of right of way, I would just have to look at it. If that actually is. But there is a different legal description here.
There is, yeah, big difference. So like I said, how can you pass something right now, having the public hearing that was on the previous, and, you know, it's a whole different, you know, to me.
We're only having first reading, that's why we do things like this. So I can go and look at the legal description. You are correct, they are very hard to read.
Oh, they are.
So I don't know that the last legal description that you pointed out here is 0.044 acre, and then they have an exception. So I would just have to jive those together. But yes, that is not in the 223.
Correct.
I would be glad to look into that.
Okay.
Thanks.
And two, as far as 100% annexation, I have a issue with that because you've got 6 parcels up there, one of them I used to live in, that are carved out. Yeah, you can have a super annexation, but you've got what you want, not what you need. So the rest of those 5 parcels, I'm sure, you know, somebody lives, I'm understanding there may be a couple of them that already have accepted. But, you know, as far as a super annexation, it's really difficult for me to understand that it's 100% super annexation, voluntary, which you've got some that don't want to, that are actually still, I understand, in the process of wanting to be annexed. They may come later. If not, who knows?
But they're not considered for annexation this evening.
Pardon me?
They're not being considered for annexation this evening.
Well, yes. They're in, well, I'm sure.
They are not part of the annexation. They will not become part of the city.
They will not. Is that correct?
They will not. Those properties will not be part of the city after.
Of this annexation?
Of this annexation. They would have to petition to
What
have
about-
that done.
What about down the road?
If they made a petition, we would consider
Okay.
the petition.
Okay.
Good.
But anyway, this is really what I main topic, I wanted to pass on.
Thank you, I'll look into that.
Okay.
What's your name and address, please?
Monte Reed, 605 South Bell. I'm a Kokomo resident and have been for a majority of my life. So I have some prepared. And I'm against the rezoning, by the way. Capitalism. Capitalism is a great tool, but a horrible master. Everybody doesn't win, every kid isn't laughing. But we fund wars and say we can't feed the poor. A nation is wealthy, yet the homeless endure. Major industries, they destroy small cities. Air and water suffer as profits rise to the ceilings. Corporations prioritize shareholder gain. The workers, they struggle with stagnant wages and pain. The economy exploits, I can't pay for a date. The CEOs get all the benefits and communities wait. Many leaders have warned about inequality's weight. If most members are poor and miserable, it's a fate. Money talks, that's true, but people suffer and cry. Should we reform capitalism or let it wither and die? How can we sit back and do nothing while people struggle to buy food? Let's rethink our system for a better tomorrow too. Thank you.
Mr. President, I have a question. We have two ordinances tonight. We're speaking about the first one, 7229, correct?
Correct.
So we're not doing both of them, we're just doing one.
Just the one, annexation.
And there's one on the floor right now.
That's correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I understood that. I got confused when we talked about having two things at once.
Yes.
We're only doing one at a time.
That's correct. Thank you.
My name is Vicki Jackson. I live at 5154 North, 250 West. I want to say a prayer first, because you guys did too. A prayer for the removal of the wicked. Father, we ask in the name of Jesus that all willful workers of the wickedness be removed from position of power, prominence, and prestige. Open the eyes of those being deceived and place people who stand for your righteousness and cause in this high places of government and influence. Okay, my dad used to own all the land on Busby Road, which is now Sparks. He sold it because there was an investor from Illinois, and he was able to do a 1031 and go buy more land. As a farmer, you want to get more and more and more. Well, it's hard to buy land anymore and compete with what they offer. And I've had people call me weekly on my property on Smith Road and 35, where a vegetable stand used to be. My grandma worked there 30 years. And they offer me, well, we'll take it for $50,000 an acre. And I said, I don't sell anything unless it's $100,000 or more an acre. Make it a cool million, because that's 10 acres there. I don't want to sell out. But anyways, my family owns farmland. Our property taxes have went up 25% in 2023, and then another 25% in 2024, making property taxes doubling in the last 2 years. These taxes are revenue for Howard County. With all the incentives and abatements lasting 5 to 20 years, you are losing property taxes of more than $50,000 per year on land of 700 acres. That's income. What kind of revenue will an industrial site, data center, whatever it may be, bring? Okay, my best friend's daughter is a data scientist. She works from Kokomo, but it's in Louisville, Kentucky. She works remotely. These data centers only employ very few people. We want employment like GM used to have, or Chrysler. Samsung was a flop. I mean, my son helped build it. It's all Credence work there now, even in management. Let go of all my friends. They're working at Merrill Brothers now. But, so after that initial build, which is going to employ quite a few people, but even with the Samsung build, they brought people in from every other state. I met him at Mose River's room. All the skilled tradesmen, they were paid very highly. So it's not only Kokomo residents building. So my son is a skilled tradesman and an engineer. He helped build that Sampson plant with many of those skilled tradesmen. It didn't employ Kokomoans. It employed Koreans. He seen them pour out contaminants right on the ground as he was doing his work, and he just was appalled. Okay? That's one thing. Then he traveled. He's from Kokomo. He lives in Kokomo, Kokomo residence. He went to New Carlisle. He built the Amazon data center. He only worked there maybe 6 months at the most. Then he moved to Lebanon, Indiana, building the data center. He only worked there 6 months. Now he's in Brownsburg building a new fuel station. Okay, it would be great for him to work right at home and not travel these busy roads and me have to worry about him. Because he's driving, well, New Carlisle was 2 hours. It's almost to Michigan. But it's only temporary. We want jobs that are not temporary. At the expense of our precious natural resources, especially water.
Ma'am.
We have been in a serious drought.
4 minutes are up.
I have a little bit more, and he talked for more than 4 minutes.
Ma'am, your 4 minutes are up. Thank you.
I'll talk at the next one, because I got another page.
That's all for now. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Neil Iser, 11939 West 500 North. So I've been living in the area for about 2 years now, retired out of the military. My wife went to Northwestern, so I have no roots here other than through my wife's side. So for me, as far as history here, I hear all that. I grew up in a small town farming community in Southwest Minnesota, so I tend to like to not see a ton of change, but when you've done 20 years in special operations, you know, you get to see a lot and go to some dark places in the world. I'd really want to encourage you all to really take a look at some of the industries that are still here and what they are contributing, as well as those that have left or have gone under. I was doing research on the old steel plant, as many of you know. I never knew what was going on there until I started seeing all the EPA stuff, and there's a lot of bad that was left over from that plant. It also brought in a lot of good jobs as well during that time as it was around, so I understand that. One of the things that we had to deal with in the military was we did have to work in speed, as Mr. Wyman did talk about. I understand that. But part of that is also understanding the risks. So I really want you all to be very cautious with this, because speed does not always equal safety. Sometimes it does, but in that as well, there's a lot of danger when you're out in front of your skis. So I really want to encourage that. One other thing I'd like to correct the record on, just confirmed via the Indiana House website, 1333 did move on. It is currently in utilities right now, so it did pass the House and it's in at the Senate at utilities right now. So it did pass. But in general, I don't know much that goes on at the Star Energy Plus plant. I don't see a lot going on there. I saw it being built. It's kind of ugly, but I live out in the middle of nowhere, so I don't have to see it very much. But I appreciate this opportunity, and I pray for each and every one of you. Take care.
Thank you.
Evening. I'm Cal Vaughn. My address is going to be 00 North South, 1150 West. I would heed his words. I've spent some time in the same units and similar experiences. Got to do a threat analysis, but that's not why I'm here. I'm speaking to preserve procedural objections for the recording, the record regarding the current proceedings and rezoning proceedings previously, currently and previously before this council. First, statutory procedure and jurisdiction. Rezoning may not lawfully proceed where required statutory procedures have not been followed. Object that statutory notice and procedural requirements have not been satisfied, and that these defects deprive this body of lawful authority to take final action. Second, integrity of the record. Under Indiana's open door law, the governing body must maintain memoranda or minutes reflecting the date, time, and place of meetings, members present or absent, general substance of the matters discussed or decided, and votes taken. I object that prior proceedings have not produced compliant memoranda or minutes sufficient to support final action. Third, due process and impartial decision-making. Rezoning proceedings are quasi-judicial in effect and require fairness, meaningful publication, public participation, and decision-makers who are open to persuasion. I object that prior statements and actions in this matter reflect predetermined decision-making and intent to curtail public comment, which is not a lawful basis for zoning decision and violates due process. That objection includes any material interested party exerting influence outside the public hearing process, including developers or other non-members whose financial interests give them leverage over decision-makers. Fourth, mandatory disqualification for financial interest. Indiana Code 36-7-4-223 requires the disqualification of any plan, commission, or legislative body member who has a direct or indirect financial interest in the outcome, and it requires that such disqualification be entered in the official record. I object that materials submitted indicate ownership interest tied to the subject property or material affected property. Yet I'm not aware of any formal disqualification, recusal, or record entry as required by statute. Because these defects involve jurisdiction, required procedure, and statutory disqualification, they cannot be cured mid-proceeding or by simply proceeding to final action. I respectfully request that the council table or dismiss this rezoning and any auxiliary decisions tonight and require the matter to restart in full compliance with Indiana law. For the record, I object to any further or final action being taken despite unresolved statutory disqualification requirements under Indiana Code 36-7-4-223 and unresolved record and memoranda defects under Indiana Code 5-14-1.5-4. Also have written objections to give to County Clerk. I believe this goes to you to be included into proceedings. This goes to additional court outside of the judicial quasi-judicial system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, are we not talking about
Yeah.
annexation?
I'm going to talk about annexation.
Do we-
Just
is
as
that
a
the
reminder
subject
that this portion of tonight is just about annexation, it's not about rezoning, okay? That'll help keep the two separated, thank you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Tammy Wallerick. I live at East 00 North South in Kokomo. I am in one of the last homes in the 2013 annexation as you go towards Greentown. We moved here 7 years ago. I'm going to be very brief with this part of it. Didn't realize we were buying in the city. And then when we did find out, we went, well, that's really, okay, this will be all right. We don't have city water. We don't have city sewer. There are no fire hydrants. I'm okay with the city water, city sewer. We do fine on our well. We do fine with our septic. But I think that before you consider annexing additional property, whether it be for industrial development or residential development, you consider what you're doing with your annexed properties and taxpayers now. Because we don't feel, and I'm not going to use feel, but I know that if my house were to catch fire, it will burn to the ground. I'm properly insured for such. But to be considered a city resident and not have a fire hydrant with any working distance of my home is a little ridiculous, in my humble opinion. So the one thing I wanted to point out about annexation, and would really like you guys to consider putting it aside, I'm not anti-growth. I grew up in Flint, Michigan, though. I've seen the destruction that shovel-ready ground can do. I would suggest shovel-worthy and not shovel-ready. I'm going to leave you with this because this project has fascinated me. And again, I'm not from here. But when I looked at all the parcels that were included, there are quite a few that are owned by the IEDC. I didn't know what the IEDC was, I'll just be honest. I had to do a lot of research. Finally figured it out and went, man, why would they buy up all this property? Well, when I started looking at the property records cards and realized that the value of the property on the cards cumulatively for approximately 222 acres of this annexation, the value as of 2025 was at $1.3 million. Now, I understand that most of that was farmland, and that I learned actually that it's usually undervalued by the state of Indiana. But I think it would shock most of you to know that the IEDC for those properties alone paid about $18 million for that. Even if I valued it at $15,000 an acre, it's not even close to that number. I would hope that as a community, as a governing body, that you would want to at least consider that you're annexing property that it doesn't smell right. It just doesn't smell right, guys. It's just not transparent. So I appreciate your time. My parting comment to all of you, I did actually talk to 2 people at the IEDC. They were very kind and generous with their time with me, but neither of them could answer the question as to, well, why? Why is that? The last gentleman I talked to, and I will give you his name is Rich Michael. He basically told me, well, I thought that was already annexed. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your consideration.
Hello, my name is Nate Stout, and I live at 12850 West, 00 North South, and I'm here to speak out against annexation. I love the city of First. We have a lot of great history here. I was actually at a meeting this week where I discussed how the new bypass bisected my family's farm ground in Howard County from corner to corner back in the day, and how development and these strategic plans are no joke. I mean, this takes a lot of work, and we obviously want a lot of benefit, but I just wanted to speak out against annexation, and also thank everyone who showed up here today. I think you guys have been very gracious in terms of understanding that most people have never been through this kind of proceeding before. Most people have never protested on a city block before. It's a weird time to be a voter, and we need to come together, and I would like to see Kokomo set the example for transparency, set the example for smart business development. I'm glad Paul mentioned speed, because one thing what frustrates me about these projects is that, yes, they do take time and we have to be ready, but we tie up millions and millions of dollars in economic development that could be done different ways. So I just wanted to give you that perspective, and I thank you for the time.
Hi, I'm Kylie Spencer. My address is 7596 West, 150 South. I've never done this before, so bear with me. I will read what I've written. Otherwise, I'm going to go off on something irrelevant. So back in 2013, I lived just south of downtown when we had historic flooding. My dad lived next door, and within 8 hours, we had both lost everything that we'd ever worked for. In 2014, I was pressured to sell my home and land. The whole transaction was misrepresented to me, as I had no choice, and I took a significant financial and emotional loss. I was told that I could not rebuild on my land, and that I had no choice but to sell for basically nothing. The city, in turn, built a baseball stadium and apartment complex there, even though I was told that nothing could be built there because it was a flood zone. The city profited, while myself and my daughter lost everything we had. Those two situations are different, but what remains the same is the uncertainty that we are facing. At least from my point of view, the misrepresentation that happened to me is the same thing that's happening here. I was told that I had no choice but to sell, and I have heard from many homeowners in this area that they were given the same ultimatum. They were given no choice. I don't want blind annexation or rezoning of valuable farmland just in case, when many of the homeowners didn't want this in the first place. I have heard over and over that this is a super voluntary annexation and that 100% of the landowners wish for this to happen, but that is also not true. There are at least 3 homes and other parcels within the zone that are not being annexed and rezoned. Those homes could potentially have a high industrial facility on all 4 sides of their house. Or will they be given the same ultimatum that I was given? Annexing and rezoning land with no known project in mind doesn't make any sense. Lastly, I'm a 4th-generation union employee. Our oldest son now works for the union as well, and we are super proud of our union roots. We are not opposed to growth in any way. We're opposed to doing it blindly with no plan in place. These are likely not permanent positions. They will likely not be union workers, and we have already seen what's happening with the fire station. They're talking a big game about jobs, but this does not mean that there will be jobs. If there is no plan, if there is no project named, then there should be no vote until we have those in place. Thank you.
My name's Kathy Hoover. I live at 1130 East, 450 North in Kokomo. I have something to say about rezoning too, but I understand I'm only going to do the annexation stuff now. Mr. Wyman has said many times that it is the landowners and the petitioners who want this annexation. If you had a car and somebody came up to you and said, "I'd like to buy your car," and you said, "Oh, my car's not for sale. I love my car," and your car was worth about $30,000. The next person comes up to you and says, "I'll give you $500,000 for that car." You'd say, "Wow, that's a deal. I'll sell it to you." That's what's happening with this. These people, I live right across the road from it, and I know some of these people, and even though they can't really speak about it, they can speak about it. They are told up to this time that their land is worth about, I'm going to guess, $10,000 an acre. I don't know what it is. But when big corporation comes in or a representative of and says, you know, if we can get this annexed and rezoned, that property will be worth, I shouldn't say because I've been told what they were offered, but it's 5 to 6 times that amount. Of course, they're going to sign saying they want it annexed, even though they really didn't in the beginning. It's all about the money. And I hope you guys see that it is all about the big corporation coming in with more money than most normal people can turn down. That's who's asking for the annexation.
Thank you.
Good evening, Aaron Kane, 2205 St. Andrews Court, and I just want to say a few things and sit down because this is one of my first meetings. I want to say hello to everybody, and I'll be back for other ones. But as far as annexation, I've lived in Kokomo my entire life, played under the Cyber League Mansion, hung out the seashore, the jukebox. A lot of Kokomo is still here, but a lot of it's disappearing. He was right about the speed of business and the way models are done right now. And he's right when he comes in here and looks at Kokomo and he says, you know what, I can do this, 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 and here because people don't understand this, this, and this here. So the problem with us, and maybe the council as well, is that there's not a bridge between us here and you here. When someone like this comes in, great businessman, comes in and offers an opportunity, sometimes they don't have a choice but to say yes. If there's going to be economic growth, if there's going to be opportunity, you can't shut yourself off as a city. But what we can be vigilant on is what comes in. What do we want here? Why do we want it here? And is it worth it? That's it.
Good evening. I'm Joe Kaslis,
Live at 1416 West Sycamore Street, Kokomo, Indiana, 46901. Excuse me. Just to respond to Mr. Wyman's statement that the Kokomo engine plant was brought here by being in a area that was close to an interstate and utilities already brought there. The engine plant was negotiated in a contract with the UAW and Stellantis, or FCA. I think Stellantis owned us then. But either way, and it was brought about because we have an engine plant at Kokomo transmission plant. We have an engine block line there, and that's the line that I work on. We negotiated a Ferrari line where we made world-class transmissions that went in Maseratis and Alfa Romeos and everything. And there was one year that we ran those defects all year long, 0 defects on that line, which is unheard of in manufacturing. So Kokomo looked like a great area for them to expand the engine plant to because of our workforce, our commitment that we have to work. It's not all about, the utilities being hooked up and whatnot. I don't want you to fall into, like somebody talked about, negotiations or whatever, and being the lady talked about being a target, being manipulated. I don't want you to think that you need to do this because NIPSCO ran so much pipe from wherever to wherever. NIPSCO doesn't vote for you. The people here that raised their hands up in the air earlier, that's who votes for you. So another thing, in baseball, they keep track of the runs, they keep track of the hits, they keep track of errors. You guys have had some errors in this past this past year, if you ask me. But they also do classification of what kind of error it is, whether it's a forced error or it's an unforced error. You guys, errors that you've made so far, in my book, the trash fee, it's kind of forced because it's Senate Bill 1. The jail was forced because, you guys had to make a new jail due to the issues with the old one. The sewer system, raising the taxes for the sewer system. Those are forced errors. You guys had to make those votes, and I understand. But this one's unforced. Nobody's forcing you to make this vote. Nobody's saying, "Oh, you got to rezone, you got to reactivate this area." And in closing, there's an old police song that says, "Every breath you take, every vote you make, we'll be watching you." Okay?
Hello, Nick Cologne, 2861 Beach Rock Lane. I just want to make it very clear to you guys, he said that multiple times he represents these petitioners. These petitioners are nameless companies. So we don't even get to know who is inflicting their will upon us. And these petitioners are not voters. They are not constituents. So listen to the people, not to the companies, please.
Is there anyone else? One more.
Hi, I'm Dawson Anderson, 718 West Mulberry, Apartment 20. I'm here to oppose this annexation as well. And I'm here to oppose big business forcing issues past this democratic process, as someone else mentioned earlier. There was mention of $4 billion being put into the community from Star Plus Energy. Someone else also mentioned the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. I wonder how much of that money came from them? How much of that money came from state taxes? How much of that money actually came from that corporation? How much of that money came back into our pockets? Have any of you seen any kind of a raise? Any kind of increase in money? from that Star Plus Energy? How many of us actually have jobs from there? We got any? Doesn't seem like many people have gotten much benefit out of that battery plant. Citing your previous efforts and kind of work done when that money has overwhelmingly benefited land speculation, corporate backers, and, local bureaucrats over the people of Kokomo. How many of you have had land affected by this purchase? And, if any of us didn't raise our hands, we'd be being optimistic. And the same thing was true with Star Plus Energy. This land being rezoned, or in this case, the annexation of it even, will affect all of us. And that's reason enough that there should be something akin to a referendum on this issue rather than a single vote with our council instead of groups of unelected commissioners and planning boards making all the decisions. Time is of the essence, and speed involving these projects is too. But we can stop working first for corporations and streamlining along their projects, trying to bring in businesses we didn't vote for, and start focusing on processes that are democratic, transparent, and practically beneficial for our residents. We had a number of businesses here previously that would do things like make bricks for buildings. 718 West Mulberry, I live in one, built by a brick factory just here in Kokomo. And instead of bringing in something that would actually benefit the local community, we're talking about this prospect, Operation Eagle, which somehow sounds even worse than the kind of general speculation we've had over a data center. An aerospace industry would mean something like Boeing, Northrop, Raytheon. It could also be a data center since that seems to be such a common connection these days. But I don't know about anybody else here, but I don't want the same people who are senselessly currently spending our tax dollars bombing Iran to have a business in our town. So that doesn't really bring any kind of warmth to my heart, that idea. I don't want the same people bringing the blood of Iranians and Palestinian children to my community. But it doesn't really matter that much because we've already had that happening. SoulBrain, the other business that is using the land that was redistricted, is actively sending investment actually to Israel through battery materials because it's Battery Creation Corporation, works with Tadiran batteries. And on the matter of religion, since we're talking about Israel, we had a counselor interrupt someone who tried to speak up in this room by saying, "My first loyalty is to God," instead of saying, "My first loyalty is to my constituency." That is what your first loyalty is to as a counselor. And if you say otherwise, you are breaking separation of church and state. But that brings me to my biggest point and probably the most important.
Your time is up.
It's okay. You guys are incompetent as a body, and all of us are going to oppose this regardless of what you say because you have proven that you cannot make sound investments for this city.
Thank you. Okay, we are done with annexation. We will now go. One more? Yes, sir.
Larry McNew, 3140 South, 700 West. First of all, I want to begin by expressing my sincere appreciation for the responsibility of you that you all have accepted to choose to serve the citizens of Kokomo and Howard County. Public service is rarely easy, and the decisions you face often come with significant pressure and scrutiny. At this time, it seems as though you deserve combat pay for challenges with that role. I got to put a little humor in there. In many ways, your responsibility reminds me of the service of our enlisted military personnel. When they are called upon, they step forward and fight for what is right for their country. Likewise, when difficult issues come before each of you, your duty is to stand for what is right for the community you represent. That is why I want to speak to you regarding the proposal currently before you concerning farmland annexation. I strongly believe that voting no on this proposal is the right decision for Howard County. Blind annexation
of productive farmland is not the kind of progress that our community needs. Thoughtful growth and responsible planning are essential to protecting the character, sustainability, and long-term well-being of our county. Our farmland is not simply open space waiting for development. It represents heritage, productivity, and an important part of our local economy and identity. Once it is gone, it cannot be replaced. Decisions about annexation should be made with the greatest care and foresight. I appreciate the difficult position each of you holds and the seriousness of which it weighs on these decisions. Thank you for your willingness to serve and for your commitment for doing the right thing for Howard County. Thank you.
I'm going to turn this over to the council if anyone has any comments. I'm going to read a partial letter that the council received. I will not mention the person's name that wrote it because he fears restitution if people should find out that he did this letter. I know that there's been a lot of discussion generated by our area landowners' request to be annexed into the city, and even more discussion and speculation about the proposed industrial park that would fill that annexed land. So I hesitate to add my voice to that conversation and add another email to the long list you've received. But I have chosen to reach out because I feel that I do have a unique perspective to add to that conversation. One that highlights the positive impact that the current industrial park has had on the operations of Ivy Tech and Kokomo. As a result of the first industrial park and the subsequent international investment, the college has seen an increase in training opportunities, a strengthening relationship with their K-12 and Career Center partners, and increased visibility in our community. The easiest of those to calculate are college's training opportunities. Since the first industrial park was built and filled, the college has completed nearly 1,000 trainings with StarPlus Energy. Those trainings, as you'd assume, bring job opportunities for instructors, supply and equipment purchases from area businesses, and interest and increased enrollment in manufacturing programs for our students. Our work and our visibility as we engage in that work has increased connections with our K-12 education partners and our area employer partners, unlocking new opportunities. Last year, our campus achieved our highest recorded workforce training total and our highest recorded dual credit enrollment total. Our campus has without question benefited from the industrial park growth we have seen on the northeast side of Kokomo. Does anyone on the council have any communication?
Mr. President, I do. I too was at a meeting Thursday and spoke with some people and thought that I was going to get taken to the coals about this. These are all farmers. And what they said to me, they gave me an example. They said if you had 3 houses and one neighbor wanted to sell a house, and did I have the right as the government to come in and when the other neighbors opposed that, to come in and say that he couldn't sell his house? So when we talk about people, there are people here are opposed to this. There are people here that say that we should not trample on the rights of people being able to sell their land. And I was moved and saying with that, these people do not want to come here, like Greg said, and be taking over the coals. So it was a very interesting conversation amongst farmers that I didn't expect to have. So there is a different perspective. So when I ask myself, when you say I represent you, do I represent them also? So I'm glad that I'm going to be, with all this information, I'm going to be given another 2 weeks to be able to make a decision on what we should do here. So thank you.
Any other communications from council?
I will agree. I want you guys to know that any decision we make, for me, is not an easy decision. I value everything that you say, and I try to take it all in and make the best decision. Condescending remarks, you don't know what you're doing, this and that, it doesn't do anything for us to move the ball forward. If we're trying to grow as a city and make sure that we listen to each other and be respectful to each other, that's what we should be doing. Because you don't know the conversations that I have with the mayor or the council members about any decision we make. All you know is what you put out there on Facebook and something like that, like we don't care about you all. I would take everything into consideration before I cast my final vote, I assure you of that. But it's unnecessary to demonize or say other things about people because you wouldn't want it done to you.
Any other comments from council? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to pass ordinance number 7229. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
That's clerk. Would ask the clerk to take roll, please.
Capshaw.
Aye.
Miklick.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Nay.
Griecu.
Aye.
Plow.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Stewart.
Aye.
Sanborn. Aye. Davis.
Aye.
8-1 passes.
Motion passes 8-1. I'd ask the clerk to read ordinance number 7234 by title only, please.
Ordinance 7234 is case P04Z26 as a rezone for an industrial park.
Councilman Griecu.
I seek support for ordinance 7234.
Support?
Mr. President, ordinance 7234 is a petition for rezoning from Whitmore and Blackwell LLC, the IEDC, Samsung SDI America, and Victor L. and William David DeVore, represented by Paul Wyman, for a change in zone classification from AG Agricultural, IA Intense Agricultural, RR Rural Residential, and C2 Medium to Large Scale General Commercial within the AGOL Agricultural Overlay to HI High Intensity Industrial Heavy Manufacturing within the OIA OL Office Industrial Agricultural Overlay for the parcels listed here within. I would move for passage of ordinance 7234 on first reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any communication by anyone on the council? At this point, we'll entertain communication from the audience. It will be from the list that was signed when you first came in. And our attorney will call the first person. That will be Mayor Tyler Moore. Yes, 4
ma'am.
minutes too.
Or sir, whoever said it, I prepared statement to keep it under 4. Do my best. Give me 30 seconds if I hit it. Thank you, council. First and foremost, I want to thank each of you for your time, energy, attention, sacrifice, and commitment to the public service of the citizens of Kokomo and to our collective governance of the city. For months now, you've endured complaints, criticisms, accusations, disrespect, mockery, ridicule, and heartache for simply addressing items proposed to you by this administration, by property owners, and by developers. You didn't initiate any of the fees, rate increases, civic issues, developments, or rezonings that you've had presented this past year or so. You, again, were simply doing your duties as members of the Common Council to best serve the majority of our citizens and the progress of our city. I know you probably don't hear it enough, but thank you all very much. With that in mind, I want to thank you as well for patiently sitting through meetings, responding to phone calls, texts, emails, initiating research of your own, or even taking the time to come to City Hall to seek input. I appreciate your desire to keep an open mind to what is being proposed and the incredible potential it can give our community. As you should well remember, one of my top priorities when I took office 6 years ago was to commit to securing and creating a dedicated industrial park. As I mentioned at your last meeting, community leaders, both elected and non-elected alike, have mentioned for decades the need to diversify our local economy. We initially accomplished that task only to have Star Plus engulf the entire area and then some. Some of you were a part of that, and I can attest that the processes for annexation and rezoning then followed the same processes and timelining being followed here now. And make no mistake, I'm a firm believer that Kokomo and Howard County has been blessed to have Stellantis continue to invest in our community and its workforce for almost a century now. Yet it's been the uncertainty of the automotive industry at times that presented just as many challenging periods as it did prosperous ones. And it's those challenging times that caused the most concern and resulted in the desire for diversification. Ms. Dukes provided just a few examples of opportunities Kokomo has recently lost out on as site selectors looking for adequate space and proper zoning didn't find it readily available in Kokomo. These weren't cold calls made by the Alliance or Development Department. They were evidence where corporations interested in potentially investing in Kokomo couldn't. Therefore, what we are considering now by accommodating these requests by landowners to be rezoned is critical to Kokomo's continued growth and sustainability. There's a phrase that keeps being made over and over by community and municipal leaders from across the state: if you're not growing, you're dying. To address the recent comments that this is blind annexation and irresponsible because there hasn't been a definitive plan or development for these areas, I feel the proposed is just the opposite. Yes, a data center would be a permitted use under the high industrial designation. Note again, there has been no development plan or agreement for any type of development presented to the city or planning commission to date. But having an available area with which to market gives us the ability to better plan, vet, and scrutinize any development that may be proposed. It also allows us to be more intentional on assuring any future development will benefit the community or have as little environmental impact as possible. It even further permits us to address the criticism that we're not listening to the people by taking these concerns that have been voiced and intentionally inserting ourselves into what Kokomo wants and expects from those who now wish to invest. As for the concerns about farmland being taken, I think we need to look to Kokomo's history, both recent and not so recent. Not knowing exactly how the land required for the development of Haynes International, Chrysler, Stellantis, GM Components, Delphi Delco, and others were all handled, I'm confident the processes and concerns that were the same then as they are now. And not knowing exactly how generations of families, workers, and local businesses felt or feel about land being annexed and rezoned for those major employers in Kokomo, I have a feeling they're glad our predecessors made the same tough decisions that we are being asked to consider now. Industry brings opportunities for more jobs and greater economic support, and when land is made available voluntarily by landowners without city having to forcibly acquire it, which again is the case, it is easy to lend support for those initiatives versus trying to defend why it should be taken involuntarily. Although the city is not forcing this, nor did we initiate it, the city is in support of this potential for growth. Again, thank you for what you've done, what you'll continue to do to move Kokomo forward. We can't make everybody happy, and not everyone we represent makes their voices heard at public meetings. So please take the time to consider all the voices you hear, and please know I will be standing with you to make these difficult decisions. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Allie Pond.
Hi, my name is Allie Pond. I'm sure you guys are used to seeing my name in your inbox the past several weeks. So I'd just like to thank you guys for entertaining me and having this public forum and taking all this heat and hearing us out. Tonight, I think a lot of us have a plan to do this, but I would like to give you guys a visual representation of what your constituents want. So tonight, if you are in this room in favor of this annexation and rezoning, would you please raise your hand? And if you're here in opposition to the annexation and rezoning? Thank you. With that, I'd also like to welcome our union friends in the back who were strategically invited tonight with the promise of future contracts. But I have to ask, how can you promise a job if there's no project that exists? And even if it did, contracts like this almost always go to the lowest bidder, which is never guaranteed to go to our local workers. Tonight, I'd also like to point out that the city does not need to market itself for business. If you've been paying attention to the State House, Governor Braun has made it abundantly clear that Indiana is open for business. With the incentive the state is offering, it's hard to believe that there's not an end user in mind for this project or for this annexation. And I'm concerned that the council is not directly asking the developer and the petitioner more direct questions about this. There's still several major points that are left unclear. First, how can we move forward with a proposal that does not align with our already adopted plans? That being the Kokomo Comprehensive Plan, the County Comprehensive Plan, and our city ordinances as well. In fact, the county ordinance, which would still have this area in it, only has a future land use map that has high industry to 400 north, not to 450 north. So that is the area below where they're trying to annex on the map. So I ask, have consistency reviews been completed? And will those plans have to be amended before a vote can be taken place? And if we do have to amend those plans, does that not just violate the integrity of making those plans to begin with? I asked this question earlier this week in hopes of hearing an answer. I request that I get that in writing in adequate time to be reviewed before the March 23rd meeting. Secondly, I'd like to caution the council against blind zoning and annexation. Actions like this can constitute spot zoning, which could potentially open the door to future legal actions. I ask that you also listen closely tonight to those speaking about environmental and water resources. Even without a named end user, this rezoning is clearly intended for high industry development, which makes those concerns extremely relevant. And the fact that this may be the only opportunity you have to hear about these concerns, the Plan Commission passes these speculative projects, you won't have to hear about it. And that's what makes your decision tonight and later this month the first line of defense for our city and our community. Especially considering the state has already passed legislation loosening oversight requirements for projects such as nuclear power plants, including reducing IDM's authority to investigate pollution concerns. Senate Bill 258 addresses those if you would wish to review it. Additionally, there's still reviews underway regarding the IEDC, potential conflicts of interest at the local level related to this matter, and without an active ethics commission board in place, the responsibility to ensure transparency and accountability ultimately falls to you. Even the perception of unresolved conflicts creates distrust in the community, not just for this proposal, but for future proposals as well. Through the intense public scrutiny this proposal has received and the many thoughtful concerns raised, I hope you will pause and take a deeper look into this matter. To ensure enough oversight, I have also shared these concerns with our state representatives, state agencies, and to ensure transparency oversights. I'm asking tonight for one of two things: a motion to amend the zoning area that it aligns better with the plans that are already voted on and approved, and that would be to reduce the zoning area to be within the ordinances and within the county comprehensive plan. The city comprehensive plan does not have this because it's not in the city yet. Growth is not inherently bad, but growth without accurate data, alignment with plans, and full transparency is not responsible governance. Yes, property owners have the right to make requests, but you do not have the obligation to fulfill them, especially when it affects local residents. And let me emphasize that again, local residents. Your votes will not go unnoticed. Thank you.
Tina Dicker. Is that right?
No, it's Christina Dickin, and I go by Tina for family,
Oh, you did?
friends.
The other
Yes.
one, you said Christina, the other one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
She signed me up, so
Oh,
I'm surprised she didn't put mom.
okay.
Right?
All right, Mom, you're up.
Yeah. So my daughter Allie just spoke and said a lot of the things that I wanted to say, including the who is for this that's not going to profit from it. So no one can raise their hand on that. It says, sorry, one more wrong page. I was so proud of my daughter, I wasn't paying attention to my notes. So if you're here from the Union Hall and hope to work on this project, you will profit. And that's great. But we will suffer because we live in the area of this projected project. It says you may or may not get the jobs at the industrial park. The new fire station on Boulevard and 931 sure didn't go with our local union. So before you support this, perhaps you should do some research on what an industrial park can and will do to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vicki Jackson.
can read my other page now.
Yes. You signed up for the rezoning, so you're in.
So what I wanted to let you know, being a farmer and living on a lake, it's down 4 feet. We have been in a serious drought in Howard County for over 3 years. We were deemed catastrophic drought with burn bans for months and months on end. I couldn't burn my trash. So, on August 2020, the American Water Company finished the Phillips Street improvements and wellhead. I can take you to our log cabin, what used to have a big, huge pond in the back that is completely empty. Do I blame it on the drought? Do I blame it on the American Water Company taken out of our aquifer? Because it's a well, they won't fill it back up. Well, we tried to fill it back up with a well, and the water just kept going, disappearing. So our resources are very important. When he said 100% has went to you, they built around Jeff Schaefer, and he loves you. But I'm going to tell you, he won't sell an acre. So he's got this big farm right here. All the industry just going around him. Started with the 31, took all his persimmon trees. I mean, you took away part of his farm, because that you can take, but he won't sell. He won't sell out. But GM has 150 hourly workers. They're talking about putting a data center in that building for GM. But they're using the existing building because if you go and you check that ground, the dirt, it's so contaminated. They still can't build up the north plant. It's still empty across from Ray's Drive-In. So you guys have to think, you guys have to be responsible for our environment, for our families, for our children. I used to work with you at Sears. You've been my lawyer with Noreen, and you look familiar, and I know Greg Sheeline, he's my uncle's best friend. But what you guys are voting here, with only him saying no, can you tell me how many meetings that any of you have not passed in the past year? They've all been yay, right? No nas, no nos?
No, we've had
several nays. Yes, we have. On several.
Several out of hundreds?
Yeah. Well, I'm just telling you, just ask me a question, I'm giving you.
And how many of you guys own 750 acres or more?
I do not.
How much do you pay property taxes? How much do you put in our city money? Why is city even voting on county land? I'm trying to understand this.
Mr. President, are we talking about zoning here?
No, we're talking about all of it.
This is rezone,
Yeah, rezoning, annexation, you've already passed that.
It's not passed.
but this segment, ma'am, is for rezoning if you had any comments
Okay.
about
It's
it.
not done yet.
If it hasn't been annexed yet. You don't have it yet. It's not ready yet.
It's
How
county.
can you rezone it?
We vote county, but I have so many friends, I've been here for 57 years, that live in the city, work at GM, work at Delco. Oh, you'll all be voted out, but Bob Stevenson.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm actually going to go to the county clerk and throw my name in there.
Mike Young.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, it's been a long meeting. Thank you for your endurance, and thank you all for your endurance. I want to start with a personal thank you that I wasn't expecting to do, but to Mr. Greg Davis. I'm thankful that you did say your first commitment was to God, so thank you for that. I appreciate that, and your boldness to say it. That tells me that you're going to act with honesty and integrity, and it gives me confidence that our city council's in good hands there. I also want to thank you for allowing, all of you, community involvement. These aren't fun meetings. I sit through a lot of long meetings. They're not fun. I understand that. So thank you for allowing community involvement and comments from all sides. And I hope to leave here with allies on both sides, because this is an issue that we're just all trying to do what's best
for Kokomo. So I wouldn't be angry. I am strongly in favor of the annexation and the rezoning. And I'll give you my reasons why. I want to thank those who went before you and Paul and all the people who are in this room who went before to even make this conversation possible, where there are corporations and businesses looking to build in Kokomo, Indiana. That's a great statement of the people who paved the path to even have this conversation, whether it's a yay or a nay. That says a lot about Kokomo. So that is a great thing. And I thank Allie Pons. She is so gracious, kind lady. I really appreciate her taking the time to talk with me. That means something. And I think it's worth saying. So, and bringing up local labor, because I'm in agreement with her concern. Local labor should be of prime concern when we do these things. And we're actually working on responsible bidders ordinances and things like that for the city in order to ensure that those things happen. I want to talk real quickly about 3 points of economic impact that I believe that makes this a good decision to annex and rezone. I'll be honest with you, I don't know enough about the environmental impact and the social implications and those things to really talk intelligently about those, so I'll just leave those to the people who know more. And so I am a strong proponent for property rights, so I don't like when a property owner is told they can't sell. I'm a big, patriot, an American. If I own property, I want to be able to sell it if I want to. However, voluntarily, of course. I will talk about the 3 points. Our construction is the first. I would like to say to our folks in the room, all construction is temporary. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any customers if we never finished a project. So,
worried about what's left at the end of it.
and I understand. I understand. And I think all the concerns are good, and I'm not putting anyone's concerns down, so I don't want you to take it that way. All construction jobs are temporary, obviously. On the battery plant, there were over 8,000 men and women out there working for over 2 years. We actually still have about 200 local members that are working there right now. So it doesn't just go away. And I would agree, if local people don't do the work, I'm not for it. I don't want to see other people from other communities come in and doing it. I will say in the IBEW, and I can only speak for us, that no one from outside of our area can come in and do the work until we have exhausted our manpower. That's how we're structured. So our members work first, the citizens of Kokomo work first, and then if we exhaust our manpower, then we have resources outside of that. The second point, not the construction impact, but then the peripheral impact. We've all experienced the peripheral impact, which is Ivy Tech was mentioned earlier with the enrollment. You have restaurants, gas stations, small business, entrepreneurial opportunities. Mom and pop shops have now begun to thrive because of the influx of consumers that can afford their products. So I don't think we want to, we have members that have purchased homes, cars, and come to reside and make Kokomo their home as a result of this. Is it over? Okay, thank you. I will just thank you then, and I'll leave my other points on the side. You have a good night.
Thank you.
Thomas Sharp.
Hi. Thomas Sharp, 1308 Meadowbrook Drive. First of all, I want to say that I'm really disappointed about the last vote. Mr. Corbin urged you to take the information before this meeting, in the organizational meeting, to take the information and ponder on it. He said you didn't have to vote tonight, yet we passed it 8-1. I'm very disappointed in that. I also want to say that I can respect Mr. Young's opinion. I respect that he's looking out for his people. We're trying to get jobs in the area. That's what we're doing. I want to say that most of the people that are against this movement, against this development, are not anti-growth. We're pro-responsible growth. And I also want to thank Mr. Wyman for, in his explanation, explaining that this is, in fact, by definition, a blind annexation and rezoning. Everything he said, you heard us, Chair, everything he said is the case. And I want to point out that it was clarified, contrary to Mr. Wyman's words, in that meeting back there that this board will never hear this again. He said that you'd get to hear it again once something was proposed. It doesn't get to get heard by this group again. We don't get to voice our concerns again.
Sir,
Not to this group, but that's not true.
That's not true.
Well, that was literally what was said.
No.
Okay.
No, the next step, if this were to pass, if anybody, when the time comes for somebody to come in and want to open a business in Kokomo, they would go to the Planning Commission.
The Planning Commission.
Yes, sir, and everybody gets to talk again. So that is not at all what was said in there.
But it doesn't come before you.
It does not
It
come
comes-
before us.
It comes, that's all he's saying. I'm saying that it's not coming before you, it's not coming before elected officials, and I reclaim my time.
Okay.
I can appreciate the standpoint of the IBEW for short-term projects, but the IBEW, how do you feel about the fact that the fire department is not building, or the bricklayers union is not building the fire department?
Mr. President, are we
It's
talking
disgusting.
about this zoning?
No, yeah,
Are
we're.
we
Yeah, we're talking about rezoning.
We're not talking to the public,
Sir,
we're talking to the
Okay.
council. There's a difference.
Okay, this is supposed to be about the long-term health of Kokomo, healthy jobs, healthy economic growth, and healthy people. That's what I read in the Kokomo Comprehensive Plan that is being used as a basis for this development. This area is in the 80th percentile for cancer already, most likely due to a nearly century of being poisoned by heavy industry while corporations and a small number of individuals run to the bank. We have a long history of failed industry. We already have 2 EPA Superfund sites. We have the Chrysler plant on Home Avenue that became Warren's that is now a toxic waste dump. Stellite, Kingston, Continental Steel, Delco Electronics. The battery plant is an abysmal failure, regardless of what everybody says. Chrysler would be gone if it wasn't for TARP bailouts. Yet we're putting our hopes and dreams into more high industrial businesses that will make this area unlivable. A lawsuit was just filed against the IEDC regarding employees creating shell corporations to personally profit. They're the largest property owner in this rezone. They're also the group behind the massive data center in Lebanon. Additionally, I was reading on their website that they promise a 25 to 50-year tax abatement to the people that buy their properties, taking everything out of the city's hands. They promise that on their website. I'll be happy to send that to you if you haven't seen it. I'm not sure how that's possible, but they do it anyway. You won't have any control over it. Furthermore, as additional lawsuits are brought against the IEDC, this property will likely get caught up in litigation, halting any projects, and will have a half-built building like that eyesore down in Tipton. The resistance to this project is growing. Over 1,100 citizens have joined a Facebook group against this project. Those members have invited 6,000 people, and more are joining every hour. Again, I remind you that Mayor Moore said if the majority of citizens were against this, he would stop it, yet put the responsibility on the citizens to get it put on the ballot. I say no. You were elected to represent us. We ask you to place a moratorium on this issue immediately and put a referendum on the next ballot to let the people decide if we want our water to dry up and our utilities costs to increase.
Brooke Walsh.
Hello. I'll be sure not to waste your time by repeating a speech given almost a month ago. As was mentioned earlier, things like a land grab, strong arming or using coercion, as Mrs. McNew mentioned earlier, against landowners into selling or losing their property value, they won't come forward because they are afraid. Zoning announced but not ideal, or no idea what's coming, this unknown industry. Nobody knows, so that is, in my opinion, blind. Shovel ready for what? My partner's grandparents worked in the industries all those years ago that everybody's bragging about. That's what made Kokomo, and it did. They both died of cancer linked to Delco. My own father and mother have had multiple cancers. They worked in factories. If you are not, the quote was said tonight, if you're not growing, you're dying. But if you're not growing responsibly, you're sentencing your constituents to death. There have been revelations around other high industrial rezonings and government officials in other cities signing non-disclosure agreements. This board and their mayor claim that they haven't been approached by any specific projects. None of us believe that because when we elect public officials, we give them the benefit of the doubt that they will serve the greatest good. So if you really intend to do an annexation and rezone to heavy industry, you either do know what is going in or it's a complete dereliction of duty. A quote often credited to Benjamin Franklin, "If you fail to plan, you plan to fail." We think and hope you are smarter than to go in without a plan. So I'm going to go person to person and give you the opportunity to go on official record to state for the public whether or not you have signed a non-disclosure agreement. Of course, you have three choices: yes, no, or you can plead the fifth. If the board chooses to not allow my question, it will be assumed by all of your voters that you collectively plead the fifth. So, Dave Capshaw, have you yourself, or do you know of have any knowledge of anyone signing a non-disclosure agreement in regards to this issue?
I have no knowledge of anybody signing anything concerning
Okay,
this.
thank you. Bob Stevenson, have you yourself, or do you have any knowledge of anyone signing a non-disclosure agreement in regards to this issue?
No. That is not
Okay.
happening.
This is not.
Jeff Plow, have you yourself, or do you have any knowledge of anyone signing a non-disclosure agreement in regards to this issue?
No, I do not, and I've asked whether that is something that's in different entities as well, and I get a no from them as well.
Okay, thank you. Tony Stewart, have you yourself, or do you have any knowledge of anyone signing a non-disclosure agreement in regards to this issue?
No, they always say I get money though, where it at? Show me the money.
Ray Collins, have you
No.
yourself, or do you have any knowledge of anyone signing a non-disclosure agreement in regards to this issue?
No.
Greg Davis, have you yourself, or do you have any knowledge of anyone signing a non-disclosure agreement in regards to this issue?
I have not, and your time is up, so no one else will get to answer your question.
Okay, so if no one else gets to answer, then
It's all,
voters take that.
your 4 minutes are up.
Your voters are taking that into consideration.
Your 4 minutes are up.
Let them answer.
Nobody was looking for an answer.
I, Tyler Moore, the mayor of the city of Kokomo, has not signed a non-disclosure agreement, nor has anybody on this council. You guys are welcome to respond without taking time.
We have not.
No, and I've asked that same question myself to everyone that I can possibly ask. No one has signed anything. No. No, no.
Okay, we'll go to the next person, please.
Stacy Kendall.
I already did my speech,
Can I have an empty can?
or not speech, but whatever it was. But I did have a question. Well, actually, I'll just, oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Sorry.
you're
I teach
fine.
5th and 6th grade, and I'm used to, all learn from the other side of the room. But that's what I wanted to say was, since I already read this to you, I know you said speed. We need to go, 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 right? Well, I will tell you, as a teacher, go, go, go doesn't work. I tell my students a lot, slow down. You don't need to go that fast to get to the end result because you're going to get it wrong. And 9 times out of 10, they do. So I'm just going to say, slow down. We don't need to do this right now. I know you said shovel ready, but we still have time. So we just need to slow down and really think about this. That's it.
Thank you.
Jack Chance.
Oh my God. This would be a political statement now.
Evening, Council. My name is Jack Chance, 530 West Sycamore Street, Kokomo, Indiana, 46901. Mr. Miklick, I see that you've made a lot of comments this evening about the ridiculousness alleged about the comments of your
I never
constituents.
said
I did-
ridiculous,
Right there,
and
you
that
said
is
this
not
is
a word that
ridiculous.
you
It's
can
on the
attribute
record.
to me.
It's on the record.
Mr.
So what I would like to
Chance,
continue
Mr.
to
Chance,
say, yes,
Mr.
sir, I'm
Chance.
interrupted. Yes, sir.
Okay, we're here to talk about rezoning.
Yep, rezone,
Okay,
rezone,
so if you
rezone.
wanna
Yes,
talk
sir,
about
rezone.
that,
I've got
go ahead.
rezone and all about it. All
Thank
right,
you.
I'm starting my time again. With that said, I served at a Bible college. I studied 4 years. I served in a mission. I started a mission in Oklahoma City. I know what it's like to serve God. I know what it's like to have God as your primary allegiance. And never in my time in serving would I have ever looked at somebody with a disparaging face and a silencing attitude and said, I serve God, so shut up. Of course, it's a paraphrase. When I speak to you this night about rezoning, I speak about a dire situation. We are here at the crux of the Manhattan Project. Right here in Kokomo, we have the opportunity to take a stand for the betterment of not just those here, but for the future of every single person in this city and in this state. I report to you, council, that AI has successfully diagnosed cancer. And to make this relevant, Mr. Miklick, regarding rezoning, my petition to you, council, who work for me, is that if you do pass this, despite the consent of the governed, that you would impose a ban on any and all AI-driven data centers in that area. I'm all for growth, 100%. I want my IBEW brothers and sisters to have that work. But what I will not consent to is for them to be paid a temporary price in order to build the infrastructure that not just will take all of our jobs, but is taking our job. Diagnosis of cancer is the one thing you would think would never be replaced, and yet it is at the end of 2025. We are all in danger if you today decide, just because of party loyalty or what have you, to vote despite these people. Consider the measure of your worthiness to hold the seat in which you sit. That worthiness comes only from one source: these people. These people. Do your due diligence. Be honest in the sight of God and vote no.
Thank you.
Kylie Lee, or is that Miss Spencer? Okay. Were you Spencer before? Okay. All right. Thank you. Oh, and Caroline told me how to say her last name, and it rhymes with something, and I feel badly. Awesome, but yes, I know, my bad. I saw that name, and I knew you gave me a way to pronounce it, and I messed it up. So, my bad.
Well, you can think of Neil Diamond, Sweet Caroline, there you go.
Ah, that's my daughter's name, so there you go, right?
Thank you all for allowing us to speak and hearing us. I appreciate the time that you've given us, and I do appreciate you asking to have it separated, because I do feel strongly that it should be separated. Think of going down the highway speeding. You've got your different speed limits you can go. Speeding is not good. That's why we have laws to stop us from wrecking, stop us from crashing. So I understand the speed of business, but that doesn't mean we can't pause and think about it. We should be able to pause, and we should be able to think about it and separate it. But let me get back to what I just wanted to thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so let me start by saying that I am not against growth. I'm a lifelong resident. I've worked at the factory. My dad worked at the factory. Matter of fact, I still have tendonitis and arthritis because of the factory, so I've got my long-lasting stuff from it. But what can we do to preserve our soil and water? Because rezoning after the annexation and after the rezoning will impact our water or sewer and our sewer capacity. Our emergency services are impacted. We have no fire stations that are close enough. Response time will be slower. We have groundwater plume already, which is actually, which I found this out, we have 2 Superfund sites. Yeah. Our water and Continental, which I already knew about. So the Kokomo contaminated groundwater plume, I did pull up a few things from the site, and human exposure under control is listed as insufficient data. So insufficient data in that case means that due to uncertainty regarding exposures, one cannot draw conclusions as to whether human exposures are controlled, typically because response to the contamination has not begun, or it's begun and it's not generated any information sufficiently reliable. Isn't that scary to you that we've got this in our water, we've got an issue, Nothing's been solved with our water, but yet we want to bring in more industrial use to contaminate yet more water. And we've got a creek that runs through there. And pardon my twang, that's how I talk. But we do. And I know for a fact that factories have spill off into our ground. That's what Continental did over by the waterways. So they went over there and dumped on land right beside it. So I ask, why are you okay with not only that annexation, but also with rezoning? Not knowing what's going in, yet voting on it, makes me wonder why. Does it make any sense to you? And do any of you live in the area that's proposed? I do. I'm on 5514 East, 500 North. I've been there for almost 25 years. And I love the quaintness of it. Matter of fact, I took a video the other day of just driving down the road and just, you can see for forever. That's what I love. I love being able to see for forever. I don't want to see big industrial buildings. That is why I left Kokomo, the city, and moved to the country. And then I believe, Mr. Davis, you represent my area. So if your property was attached to this, wouldn't you want to know who is coming in as a business?
Well, first of all, we wouldn't put it in a residential area, okay?
But there are residences near it.
Ma'am, it's not what I'm talking about. 20, I get the 20 or 22 homes, but I live in the city, so it's a question it's an abstract
So,
question.
One of my
Ma'am-
friends,
Ma'am, have you signed up to speak?
Yes, I have.
Okay, you'll get a chance then when that time comes.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
One of my friends actually just bought a home towards the end of the year, and she's actually going to be located directly across from it. And there are several homes up and down there, especially where it comes up and winds around. So there are residences around there.
Okay, ma'am, your 4 minutes is up.
Okay, can I have a closing thought? I did have a well thought out closing thought.
I know you did, but we've limited everybody to 4 minutes, including the mayor. the
But I
people-
kept getting interrupted.
Maybe your 4 minutes is up. Go ahead. 4 minutes is up. Go ahead and call the next person, if you will, please.
Okay, well, I just know that I am asking you to be active in regarding the environment and the impact upon the future lives of our children rather than being passive. And over 2,000 years ago, in a lush green field, none unlike the fields that we are seeking to save, a local government official, just like you named Matthew, listened to a man talk about proactively doing good. He recorded this to be read and lived in his book, chapter 7, verse 12. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law of the prophets.
Thank you.
Emily McMillan.
I already spoke with you earlier. My name's Emily McMillan. I live at 5413 East, 500 North, Kokomo. My question for you guys is pretty simple. Have you done the research? The physical hard research, not just somebody sending you information. I mean, you actually doing your own hard research. I don't mean someone handing you paperwork. I don't mean the emails. I don't mean the Facebook groups. I mean the research of any potential thing that could go in there. All the risks, all the benefits, anything like that. Until you have, why wouldn't you table it? Until you could know the potential harm that could be done, the potential good, maybe, who knows? But the magnitude of this is unknown. We don't know, because we don't know what could go in there. Our bills, our health, our soil, we don't know. And you wonder why we're so upset. There's been no transparency. And you had read a letter from Ivy Tech. I just want to make it known that Paul is also one of the biggest contributors to Ivy Tech. So just threw that little tidbit in there. Anyhow, thank you.
Thank you.
Tammy Wallerich.
I heard someone speak, and I don't recall which person, because there's been a lot of people talk tonight, that somehow if you have an opposition to this, you oppose people being able to sell their property. And I want to go on record to say I don't oppose anybody being able to sell their property. But they should be able to sell that property without being annexed by the city, and then without a rezoning. At minimum, if it's contingent upon annexation, me personally, I could probably accept that. I don't agree with it, but I could accept it. But if the purchase agreement of this property and the ability for these people to sell their property is contingent on rezoning, then I would really ask you guys to take a hard look at that. I really would. I mean, that's at the core of, again, what I guess tickles my brain and makes me look into this deeper and deeper and deeper and learn. I will share with more and more about government. I've always just trusted it. I've trusted that the mechanism was going to serve us and to serve us in the right way. And I am thankful that you guys are listening, but I'm not against growth. I'm not against people being able to sell their property. What I am against is responsible growth, shovel-worthy projects, and some transparency on, I guess, on the benefit of the doubt to folks that are sitting here going, we just want to have an idea what's going into an industrial complex. There's so many different things that can go in there. And why rezone it until you know? I understand there's people coming forward. Sometimes it's okay to say pass. So I would ask the council to consider not rezoning at this time. Thank you.
Joe left, I think. Joe Castles. I think Joe left.
Yep.
All righty. Nate Stout.
Hey, Nate Stout, 12850 West, 00 North South. I spoke earlier. To be honest, I was a little confused about what we were talking about, but now that I have a couple of minutes, I just wanted to say again how much I appreciate all of you. And again, so many new faces and names. Government's a lot. Local government's a lot. These projects take a lot of work. They take a lot of resources. And my only request is that you would take some of this feedback and give the people something, whether it's just reshaping the zoning laws to include certain criteria that would ensure if they're big, water users or they're big electricity users, there's some level of protection for these people. Because while I understand, everyone's frustrated, there is a solution here. And I'm a little confused why we haven't found it, but I would encourage you guys to open up and think about it. There's really only thing we're against. We're against a big water draining, polluting, sound polluting, light polluting interruption to the countryside. That's what makes Indiana great. That's our value. And these people don't want to see it go. And I would just ask that you try to find some creative solution, because not everything is either or. It can be a yes and. And I know you guys know that, but I appreciate your time for listening, and I hope you really do consider that. Thank you.
Sean Pierce.
We're still doing the whole address thing?
Sure.
Yeah. You've already
Perfect. 2019 North Lock Street. That is in Kokomo. So as I'm sure you can tell, I'm not a politician or a public speaker whatsoever. Let me get my notes out. I was born and raised here. I'm a homeowner here, and that is because of the IBEW. And I was able to purchase that home at the young age of 22 because of the IBEW. As far as our stability for the future goes, I'd like to see some diversification. Right now, Kokomo depends primarily on Stellantis for the larger portion of our income. And I'd like to see some more diversification. yeah, I mean, that's all I got to say. I didn't come with a prepared statement, but appreciate you guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Kathy Hoover.
I'm still Kathy Hoover, and I'm still at 1130 East, 450 North. I will address the rezoning now. Bear with me for just a minute. If any of you, I'm assuming most of you, all of you, have children. If you have a child you bought an expensive toy for, and within a couple weeks they threw it on the ground and broke it. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. You might go out and get another one. Could have been an accident. But within a couple weeks, they do it again. If you're silly enough to do it the third time, and then maybe the fourth time, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't buy it again. Samsung is involved in all of this. They cannot even be compliant with SoulBrain, with J1, or the battery factory. They are uncompliant all 4 quarters of 2025. They can't follow the regulations and the laws, and they can't seem or won't correct what their problems are there. You can look at it. It was put in the Tribune. I brought it up at the last meeting. Yet we are going to sit here and say, oh, you know what, it's okay. You can make all the excuses you want. It had to do with the election, but we're working on it. We're doing this, we're doing that. We are going to offer them a bigger piece of the pie with something that could be way more dangerous than what they're dealing with now. They won't follow the rules now, and they don't seem to be getting punished for it. So why are we giving them even more? Their name is in that LLC along with other people, but we know that that is the common thread there for everybody. And why we would even think about rezoning so that they could put something else there that's potentially more dangerous and even bigger, and they just turn their nose up. They haven't fixed what they have now. Why would we give them even more? I don't understand it.
Thane Lawson.
Hello, my name is Fane Lawson, 1407 East Foster Street. I recently just purchased a house thanks to IBEW. I've been in Kokomo for 13 years. I worked for Kokomo Housing Authority, Advantix, even did a little time as a second grade teacher, which is probably why I like the job site. So, I would implore you to go ahead and push this forward. Everyone's talking about speed. Well, in the military, I served as well. There was something called hurry up and wait. So I would like to hurry up, wait, get everything passed like the economic development lady talked about, Mr. Wyman. So if you pass this and we approve it, I'm not sure what industry is going to take over, but I definitely would like to see more industry show up. Who knows what else is could be created, and buildings get transferred. Like I have an uncle that helped put the presses in at GM, then my cousin ran the job after he was done 30 years later. So when it comes down to it, we get this switched over, the buildings are built, who knows what's going in there, but as long as it's there, we can compete versus Michigan, Ohio, all those other places. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Aaron Kane.
I spoke earlier. I just wanted to say, rebuttal, my friend here. Aaron Kane, 2205 St. Andrews Court. Mr. Wyman is bringing a proposal for to act on something. First of all, let me ask, has the room ever been this big? Have you had this many people in a room over an issue before?
Oh, my goodness, this is nothing compared to what we've had here.
Yeah.
We've had
So it
a lot
can't be
more
easy to
people
kind
than
of,
this.
to feel, to understand what the people want, and what you're trying to decide. That's a very hard thing to do, balance with your lives and balance with everything else. These companies, they say they'll bring in jobs. They may. But let me tell you something. I work for Mr. Taxi, worst taxi company in the world. How you doing? I was employed with them. I drove people to the battery plant every day for weeks on end when there was a dirt road before all the nice pavements. And you know what workers told me? No one's going to hire Kokomo people because they're not qualified. We don't have educated workers here to fill the positions that some of those guys are doing. So they were telling me, well, they're not going to hire you because you don't have people local that is qualified. And I've heard that in other places before, that an industry moves in, they say, oh, we'll provide jobs. But then they go out and look for the jobs, maybe having a pre-hire event, and people don't qualify because of the lack of some of the other things that we don't have around here as far as the city is concerned. Now, he can bring a business in. Let's have him bring a business in. I've heard nothing but good things about him, actually, because I have a real-estate friend. But to blindly just say, okay, we may not understand all this, we may not understand the big money, we may not understand all this other stuff, but nobody out here might be coming up to fight to say, we do understand that. It tends to fall hard on your burden to decide what to do. We as a people should come up here more. There should be transparency. My wife texted me a few minutes ago, she's watching this, and she said it took 3 years for Haynes and Steele to come together. And Haynes gives their employees updates every 3 months on the stability of the company and where the company is going and what they're doing. I think if that was gone back and forth more, if we ask for more and then you guys can provide more, no offense to anybody else, but the only person I've seen, because I'm on Facebook, like 5,000 followers, is Ray here. I've seen him a few times. A lot of people are getting their information from the internet. I know that's a tough thing to follow. I know it's hard for you guys who have paper information, talking information to get out. But maybe if we learn to bridge that, like things like that come up, that may be for the community, a lot more people can be informed about it. And you guys won't be vilified for saying, you didn't show us this, you didn't show us that, this guy is this and that. Like, he's just doing business. So maybe we should all think about this and try to find Mr. Wyman something else to bring in here. How about that? Can we do that? He hangs out with Samsung. I want to hang out with Samsung. But we can find other things, okay? We don't have to just say, hey, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Okay, if it's bad, let's do something about it. If this man has all these connections, let's get him to do something that we all want. Okay? That's all I'm saying. That's it.
Nick Foltz? He's gone. Gary McNew, the other part of the tandem.
Okay, I'd just like to remind the mayor, wherever he's at, that many of us here have thanked you, okay? He said we didn't thank you for what you're doing. We are thanking you, okay? So I just want to remind the mayor of that. And I do want to express my gratitude for you listening to us and having us in here and giving us that time to speak. When I went to the city to get a building permit, they wanted to know exactly what I was building. They wanted to know. I couldn't get a permit until I told them what I was building. Well, you know what? To this day, we still don't know what we're building. I think that we've all determined here that none of you, okay, are under a non-disclosure agreement. That was pretty clear. And I think Paul, at one of his meetings, he had indicated to us that he wasn't under a non-disclosure. That's what he told us, okay? Maybe the developer has signed a non-disclosure agreement with someone like Meta, Google, or Amazon, and therefore could not share any information of what the potential industries are. Maybe Paul doesn't know. I don't know. Maybe the non-disclosure has been signed with the developer and some of these other folks. But yet the mayor and the agent, they continue to proceed recklessly with these requisitions. Unfortunately, you have already passed the annexation. If this common council votes in favor to move forward with this rezoning, that can allow the developer and the agent the ability to apply an incredible amount of pressure on the mayor and city officials, which can result in decisions that can negatively impact our community. I'd like to also say, I'm reminded of a portion of scripture in Isaiah where it says, "Come, let us all reason together." I thought that's what we could do here tonight. Come, let us reason together. There's about 450 acres located east of 31, the upper the upper development area. Okay, there's a, let me back up a minute. This whole thing is approximately 748 acres of agricultural ground in this ordinance. There's 450 acres that are located east of 31 that's being combined with a 220, which is the lower colored area. Okay, and these are located between US 31 and 931. It's also being considered in this ordinance. It appears to me that there could be a compromise. That's what it appears to me. It could be a compromise reached for the rezoning and it could exist only just for that 220 acres. We haven't even proven ourselves worthy of having that land developed or rezoned or annexed or any of that. It's still vacant. There are other areas over there vacant. You bypassed a lot of things where things could be built, and yet nothing's been done. So again, that 220 acres, plenty. If you drive by there, it's large, it's vast, it's ready, shovel ready, just about. Okay, and you know what? That's something that I think that should be in the compromise. After all, the property is already owned by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation and Samsung. And it could be solely represented by this ordinance. That'd be a great compromise, and it would show the residents of Howard County the Common Council's willingness to come and let us sit down and reason together. That's all we want to do. I respectfully ask the entire council to deny this ordinance as it's written. I'd like for the council to agree only to apply this ordinance to the 220 acres. This consideration will prioritize the preservation of our agricultural heritage and the welfare of existing residents.
Mr. McNew?
Yes.
Your 4 minutes is up.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
Thank you.
What we have is Brother Larry, if he wants to talk.
I yield my time to my brother.
Switch places,
Whatever you allow.
no.
No, please.
Come on.
Time out.
Now, wait a minute. Which one are you? Help, which one are you?
He's Larry. Everybody knows
I
it's
am Larry. That's my brother. That's my womb mate.
Right. Exactly.
Now, we've not started a timer yet.
No, we
Okay.
have not.
Okay. Because I know what this means, but I've not
I got you.
expressed it.
You're good. You're good.
So, quickly, it appears to me that there could be a compromise reached by only allowing the rezoning and annexation exists solely for the 220 acres between US 31 and 931. After all this property is already owned by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation and Samsung SDI and could be solely represented by this ordinance. Did I pick up right? Last paragraph. Because I thought I heard that already. As a resident, okay, here we go. Move. This consideration will prioritize the preservation of our agricultural heritage and the welfare of existing residents. As a resident of Howard County, and I feel like I'm Eastern Howard County, even though I'm Western Howard County, I believe this full-scale approach to rezone and annex the entire 700-plus acres will fundamentally harm the community's character and safety. In closing, if you have not heard anything I have said tonight or my brother, I ask that you please let what I'm about to say sink in. 1, developers and agents seek out sites that can be fast-tracked by mayors and city officials. 2, they look for land that is more affordable and have relaxed zoning regulations. 3, they prioritize proximity and existing substations, completed infrastructure, waterways, and utilities. 4, they also look for land where they will experience minimal resistance from the community. This is why farmland in rural communities become targets, because they are the safest locations, but because they are the quickest, not because they are the safest locations, but because they are the quickest to obtain permits under the intense pressures exerted by developers and agents. Finally, before you cast your vote on this ordinance tonight, I simply hope that you take a deep down in your heart, take a look deep down in your heart and give consideration to compromise and rewrite this ordinance. We can only hope that you can have done your research and know how these types of decisions that are about to be made here tonight have impacted other cities and communities alike. Thank you for my time, your time, and my brother's time.
I don't think I see Mon. I don't think Monte Reed is not here. Yankee left already. Clee Oliver? I think Ruth Lawson said the prayer and she signed in. I don't think she's still here.
No, she left.
No, Ruth. Ruth left.
And her prayer was
Sandy,
under 4 minutes.
Sandy McNew, would you like to say something? The whole McNew family. All right.
Yes.
Come forward.
And I'd like to make this a little more confusing.
Thank you.
My sister-in-law's name is Sandy McNew. And she lives in Richeyville.
And you both are twins too?
No, we're not.
That would be something.
We think an awful lot alike. Okay, so my name's Sandy McNew. I live at 5794 North, 100 East Kokomo, Indiana. I already spoke like some of the others, and I wasn't going to come up here except I know I would bother my husband a lot asking him some government questions. When we found out that there was some issues, now this is about rezoning. When we found out that there were issues with the current battery plant, we really didn't understand what all was going on when it first went in. And we went to a meeting when I think it's called IDEM, Indiana Department of Environmental, came in. And we got an education there, and we learned that we needed to come in the beginning stages. So we have come to every stinking meeting. And my impression is that, I'm trying to say this in 4 minutes. I need your answers. I need to understand why the only way we can defeat rezoning or annexation is, I've been told by 2 different people that work for the city, that I have to find a legal reason why you guys don't have to sign it, that you guys don't have to approve it. And I don't understand, I'm not the one voted in and have to figure out the legal reason why you shouldn't do what you're doing. And if, I thought I heard said that when you come in here and you've got a rezoning or annexation, you approve it because the paperwork is appropriate and accurate. So it really doesn't matter what our hearts feel. And so I really appreciate you wasting your time listening to us. But on the other hand, I feel like we could have robots doing your job. Because as long as the paperwork is filed appropriately, you don't have anything to do except for us to come up here and give you a legal and binding reason that you don't need to do this. Or otherwise, is it that you're going to get sued by the developer for not going through with this for him? I don't get it. And I don't want to waste my time ever coming to another meeting because you guys made up your mind. I'm not sure what I'm reading. I'm going to give you this. And it goes back to my first thought of coercion. And I'm going to give you a little devotional for you to read in the morning or at night. Pressed for details, Indiana law places a duty to identify, determine, and record conflicts on the governing body, not on members of the public.
That's the piece.
So I don't understand. Wait a minute. It's my time. I just want to know if anybody can answer my question. Is all you need for the zoning and the paperwork to be accurate?
No, we can say no if we have a reason.
We have.
What
in the
kind of
past,
reason can we
denied
give
a
you?
rezoning.
I said no.
I know you did. And I appreciate you listening. I just don't get it.
Ma'am, your 4 minutes is up.
I'm sure. And it's more than 4 minutes. I'll never step foot in here again.
Thank you.
And here's your devotion.
Thank you.
Grace
Devotion.
Moore.
I'll take it, for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We did. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here today. I want to say a couple of thank yous. I sent an email, Councilwoman Sanborn, thank you for emailing me back. I sent actually to all of you, but she's the only one who replied. And
Your name is?
sorry, it's Grace Moore. I thought it was announced to the room, so I apologize. I appreciate that she even emailed me back on a Saturday morning, so that actually means a lot to me. Sir, I thank you for your comments. It really means a lot to us here back here. Sir, I also want to say that yes, I serve God first, and He is the reason why I'm here today, because I do believe this is unjust. Righteous anger comes to mind when I think about things that are happening right now, especially the fact that we were not told that we would not be allowed to speak about the annexation, that we were somehow canceled out from speaking about that when we could have spoken about the annexation and the rezoning together. Let's take a step back. A couple of years ago, a good friend of mine needed to rezone some acres for a building project, but before they were allowed to move forward, they had to present extensive plans to the city. Are you telling me that distinguished and established members of our community have to jump through the hoops of bureaucracy, but a foreign company gets to bypass all of it? From the business aspect, these companies do not seek strong communities to help enrich the lives of their residents. They look for cheap labor, tax breaks, and low standards. Is that what we want to be known for? We are not against growth, otherwise you'd have a crowd like this in every single one of your meetings. But we want companies who will be in compliance, improve our quality of life, and show a high level of integrity, not make shady deals behind our backs. Just recently, I've learned that there are still offers being made to buy additional properties and land that are being discussed this evening. A friend of mine lives on 450 and is honestly considering selling his property right now, and it's an open offer. It's not something that's been closed yet, and it's not inside this. Are you going to continue to piecemeal and annex and rezone parts of rural Howard County? Yes. We have been told that this industrial park has been in the plan for 30 years. However, these last several meetings, senior members of our county have expressed they have never heard of these plans and that they would have made different choices had they known. Can we agree Howard County is not the same place as 3 years ago, let alone 30 years ago? Just because this was a plan made by people 30 years ago does not mean it has to be the plan today. We can change this decision. The people in this room and the residents of the county should have a voice in shaping the future. I'm a passionate person for rural industry. In fact, I am an agricultural major. My husband is an agricultural diesel mechanic. He's in these exact fields. He's working these fields. These fields are already providing jobs. It may not be your jobs that you want, but they already are providing jobs for people. please hear my heart. I understand this is not your project. You are just listening to us. And again, I appreciate you listening to us and what we have to say, and that you guys are just saying yay or nay. I'm asking you, in fact, I'm imploring you. I'm not here to attack or berate, but I'm asking you to not annex or rezone this property. There will be multi-billion-dollar companies will just take advantage of our land and our tax dollars. These are our homes, our livelihoods. These are our families living here, and this is our future at stake. Thank you.
Joanne Crawford. Melissa, I'm sorry. Oh, I can't read your name. Swain? All right, Melissa Swain. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melissa Swain, 423 East North Street. I've lived in this community for over 50 years, and over those 50 years, I've worked at Delco, GM, Chrysler, and I've owned my own business, which I still have, but it's not been open since 2020. I keep hearing a lot about a 30-year plan. And I would just like to say what I've been through in those 30 years. The artesian wells I drank from as a kid have been closed for decades now. Tiled over for a long time, Pete's Run, under Plant 1. Large industry, trucks, retention ponds, sewers, disgusting smells, automotive industry, temporary department, bridging the gap between classifications, culture of misconduct, corporate welfare by way of the State Department. One sold in 1998, the other spinned off in 1999. Now one's gone and one's landed in a holding company that now gives no pensions. 1998, Google changed the landscape, which I know that's not anything that has to do with Kokomo, but it did, because it came across our computers and our phones. A used idiom in its truest form of pawn, pledge, security, puppet, dupe, instrument, hostage, tool, pedo, foot soldier, peon, debtor, held in servitude, to create a microcosm to avoid following the rule of law. Since I've only got 4 minutes, I have a TikTok at lisa.swain49. You can read more. Not to mention a slew of others. An exhibit many years ago about the deformed wildlife and pictures of it in Highland Park. People have died of many ailments, a lot of cancer. New industrial park, many possibilities. One typically carries a NDR, so we wouldn't know what they're about to suck up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ann, I think Ann. Oh, there she is. Oh, last one. Thank you, Ann.
Start with some good stuff. And my address, 329 East Furman. This is National Groundwater Awareness Week. Very important week, and I think that's a godsend. He's trying to tell us something, folks. So we need to listen to him, please. Our groundwater, 44% of Americans depend on it. It's extremely valuable. I've been to Africa, I think I've mentioned before, and it's very, water scarce. We are very water rich, but we're not taking care of it, and I'm very concerned about that. This week is to highlight responsible development and management and use of our groundwater. And it's to encourage testing too, so I can tell people they can go to our Criterion Water lab site and find out how to test their water. Because right now, if you can get your static height tested, the DNR will do it for free. A man named Mark Bosch will come out, the Department of Natural Resources, and if your static height drops, you need to find out why. And so if they can get a baseline right now, that'd be a great time to do it. So I'd encourage people to do that. So if something happens, then they need to. The problem is our laws only require like a one-time restitution. I can tell you when Indiana American Water started drilling at another well, this was several years ago, and got this from good people. There was about a 3-mile radius where water wells dropped, and they did have to pay some restitution for people and help get that. They can drill deeper, but like I've said before, I don't know, have any of you talked to Mr. Ortman yet, Rick Ortman? That just boggles my mind, you guys. I'm sorry, I'm shocked at that, because there's only so deep you can go, and then you'll start hitting salt water even in parts of our county. So just please, this is Groundwater Awareness Month, and I just want you to be extremely aware of that. Zoning is probably your most important job. I'm just thinking about that, and I'm thinking, wow, how important that is for each one of you to think about, how important that process is. That's when you're a property owner or when you're a property buyer, you're looking around, what's around me? Because they always say the most important thing about property is location, 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 right? So zoning is the number one thing to protect that property. And that's what I just beg you to please rethink what you're doing, because as you rezone this property, you're changing it forever. So please rethink that. Joe Rousseau has brought up, how this Indiana Economic Development Corporation, Joe's right back there, great man. I just can tell you, I've heard Lori talk about the jobs that we were supposed to get, 1,200 jobs per battery plant. And guess what? She had to say in public when they pinned her down, she said, well, 600 of those. 600 were for the Koreans. And I'm not ever trying to disparage the Koreans. I'm just telling you, it was misspoke to us about the job growth. This isn't about jobs. This stuff coming in here is not about jobs. And I can tell you why, because the National Groundwater Group says there's 135,000 jobs right now that young people could get if they were qualified and developed into the groundwater industry. And I can tell you that with the water industry overall, we need young people going into it, and there's a lot of jobs there available. So if we're serious about jobs, we need to look at where we really can get jobs and get good jobs. The electricians right back here, appreciate you guys, but that Jaiwan factory was wired mainly by Koreans. And there was a friend of mine, whistleblower, that was shut down. We tried to speak to the Board of Health and Safety here in the City Hall. The mayor came down that day, and he told us that day he had to sign a non-disclosure. So I don't know what project it was, but it was a different one than this one, I'm guessing. But that did happen. And at that Board of Health and Safety meeting, she was disclosing the concerns about the wiring on that. So I would ask for you to think about an evacuation plan for our community. Because these VESs that Paul's talking about, their batteries they're building there, there was a major fire. I think you all heard about that one in California. That was one of the best built battery energy storage systems in the nation, and it burnt. So all those city officials and all those people, the University of San Jose wrote a whole documentary about all the dangerous chemicals that were released by that fire. So our community is investing in something pretty unstable. And so I would ask that you please relook into that. The battery energy storage unit that we stopped there on Boyer and Lincoln, that was one of these things that he says they're building right now. They're building the batteries for those things. How many of those are you planning on putting in our county? I sure would like to know, because I just heard today that somebody was talking about buying or developing solar panels in the western part of our county. How much of our county are you going to cover? So, 5,000 acres already, from what I understand, 4,000 to 5,000 approved. You need BESS, battery energy storage units for that energy. So these developments that you guys are talking about, please think about the effect on all of us. We really, and I want to regain for these young people, the Republican Party was supposed to be the conservative party. We wanted to conserve things. We wanted to conserve our land, conserve our money. And you guys as Republicans, I'm pretty shocked that you're not more conservative. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone on council that has any final communication? Okay, we have a motion and a second to pass rezoning ordinance 7234. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Ask the clerk to take roll.
Councilman Capshaw,
Aye.
Councilman Miklick,
Aye.
Councilman Stevenson,
Nay.
Councilman Grieco,
Aye.
Councilman Plow,
Aye.
Councilman Collins,
Aye.
Councilman Stewart,
Aye.
Councilwoman Sandburn.
Aye.
Councilman Davis.
Aye.
8-1 passes.
Motion passes 8-1. This concludes the meeting for tonight. The next meeting will be March the 23rd at 5:30. We'll have the pre-meeting in the Laux room. Regular meeting will be back in this chambers at 6. This meeting is adjourned.
Okay, Crystal.